Do you ever lie awake while the room is quiet, yet your mind refuses to rest? Have you noticed how the night feels heavy when the day has taken too much from you? What if the darkness you fear is not empty at all, but listening? There are nights when sleep feels distant. The body is tired, yet thoughts keep moving, one after another, as if they are afraid to stop. The world slows down outside. Lights fade behind curtains, and still the inside feels loud. Many people know this kind of night. The phone is silent. The house is still. The clock keeps going. And in that silence, the heart begins to speak. Modern life does this to us. Days filled with noise, pressure, expectation, and constant motion do not end when the sun goes down. Worries follow us into bed. Memories replay. Questions wait for answers that never arrive. Even rest can feel like work. And so the night becomes a place where tired hearts finally admit how worn they feel. Yet the Bible speaks of the night in a different way. Not as an enemy, not as a void. The night is shown as a gentle space, a time set apart, a quiet place where words grow soft and care becomes close. Long before glowing screens and restless schedules, people looked up at dark skies and trusted they were not alone. There is a line in the Psalms that says, "I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety." These words were not written from comfort. They came from lives that knew fear, waiting, and loss. And still, peace was spoken into the night. The Bible does not rush. It does not shout. It often meets people when everything else has gone quiet. In the still hours, it offers something gentle. Not rules, not demands, just presence. Just words that sit beside you like a calm voice in the dark. Think of the night as a sacred pause. A time when striving can stop. When nothing is being asked of you. In Scripture, night prayers rise without performance. Tears fall without shame. Rest is allowed, even expected. When thou liest down, thou shalt not be afraid. Yea, thou shalt lie down, and thy sleep shall be sweet. These words were meant to be carried into the dark, not analyzed under bright light. Many stories in the Bible begin or deepen at night. Jacob lay down with a stone beneath his head. Samuel heard a quiet call. Shepherds watched fields while the world slept. Again and again, the night becomes the place where fear softens and trust begins to grow. The darkness does not hide God. It often draws him near. You are not weak because sleep feels hard. You are human. The Bible knows this. It speaks to tired minds and worn bodies. It does not ask you to fix yourself before rest comes. It offers rest as the place where healing can begin. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. That invitation was not meant only for daylight hours. As this night unfolds, you are allowed to stop carrying the day. The moments that troubled you do not need solutions right now. The questions can wait. The Bible speaks of a peace that settles quietly, one that does not argue with fear, but gently outlasts it. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. These words move slowly, like calm water. The night listens without judgment, and Scripture meets you there, not as a lesson, but as a companion. You do not have to stay alert. You do not have to hold everything together. The verses you hear are meant to wash over you, not demand attention. Let them arrive, then pass, like soft light through a window. There is something kind about the way the Bible speaks after dark. It reminds you that you are seen even when no one else is awake. That rest is not earned, That safety does not depend on your strength. He giveth his beloved sleep. This promise does not hurry you, it waits. So as the night continues, allow your body to grow still. Let the words settle where they wish. You do not need to remember them all. You do not need to stay awake to receive them. The night itself is enough, and the presence carried within these ancient lines is closer than you think. If this space feels gentle to you, you are welcome to stay. You can support this quiet place by subscribing to the channel. And if you feel like sharing, write your name, the city you are watching from, and the time of night you are here, down in the comments. For now, remain where you are. The night has begun to speak, and it does not need a reply. Under the endless stretch of a sky filled with stars, imagine the quiet nights of ancient times, when villages slept under soft moonlight, and only the faint flicker of oil lamps broke the darkness. Families would gather in the low glow of hearths, and travelers resting along dusty roads would lift their eyes to the heavens, feeling the vastness of creation pressing gently against them. The night was not a time to rush, but a space for reflection, for listening, and for the soft rhythm of life that carried on while the world outside paused. In those ancient nights, the same stars you might see now blinked quietly over shepherds tending their flocks and over prophets preparing their hearts for the words they would carry the next day. It was a time when the soul could breathe freely, and when even the smallest whisper of prayer could ripple into the heavens. The people of those times had no electric lights to chase away the darkness, no screens to fill the silence. In that quiet, the night itself became sacred, a companion in solitude. They would kneel beside their beds, perhaps wrapped in simple cloaks or resting on smooth stones, offering prayers that had been passed down through generations. Some words came from memory, some from instinct, but each prayer rose with sincerity, soft as the night wind. And in those prayers they poured out their fears, their hopes, their gratitude, and their longing for protection through the hours until dawn. Even when life was uncertain, when threats from wild animals or enemies lingered just beyond the campfires, they could find a measure of comfort in raising their hearts toward the unseen, trusting that the night itself held their whispers safely. Scripture often hints at this rhythm of night and prayer, carrying the quiet voices of those who sought peace under the stars. One could almost imagine a psalm being murmured by a solitary figure. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. The words were not just written to be read, but to be breathed softly into the night, carried along with the steady cadence of life. Slowing down, they became a companion for weary hearts, a shield for those feeling exposed in the dark, and a gentle hand on the shoulder of anyone who felt the weight of the day lingering into the night. In the villages, parents would whisper these verses to their children, letting the sacred words wrap them in a sense of calm. The words of the Bible were never intended only for the learned or for public worship. They were intimate, personal, and present in the small spaces between daily labors and quiet evenings. People sought comfort not in doctrine or instruction alone, but in the simple assurance that someone beyond the stars was listening. That divine presence was there even when everything around them slept. And so, the night became a time to be fully present with both human vulnerability and sacred trust, a space where fear could be softened by the cadence of remembered verses. Even outside the homes and villages, shepherds kept watch over their flocks under these same star-strewn skies. The night was their companion too, and the words of the Psalms became a soft rhythm in their own hearts. They might hum them quietly, letting the sounds blend with the low stir of sheep and the gentle sweep of night air. In those moments, the Psalms were not texts to analyze. They were lifelines, whispers that connected the human to the divine, the fleeting, present to something eternal. When one looked up at the vast heavens, the words felt like bridges across time, connecting the silent prayers of past generations with their own, carrying reassurance that they were never truly alone. In towns and cities, the rhythm of night took on a slightly different texture. People still lifted their hearts in quiet, mindful ways, often in private chambers or under the shadows of city walls. The night brought respite from the markets, the labor, and the constant movement of daily life. And there, too, verses would slip quietly into conversation or reflection. When thou liest down, thou shalt not be afraid. Yea, thou shalt lie down, and thy sleep shall be sweet. Such lines were like gentle reminders from a trusted companion, telling them that rest could be received without fear, that the evening was a space to surrender worries, and that the promises of the day's struggles would not be forgotten in the night. Travelers on roads that stretched through wilderness or hillsides would carry these words within their minds as well. Alone in the dark, with the wind passing over stones and grass, they would murmur verses that had been taught to them or learned from scrolls. Each whisper became a companion, a voice to fill the spaces that night otherwise left empty. And even as they settled under stars unfamiliar from their village skies, the quiet presence of these sacred words provided continuity, a sense of home and belonging that transcended geography. Sleep came slowly at first, but the words offered something tangible, a rhythm to hold on to, as their bodies and minds gradually found release in the darkness. There is also the sense that night itself was a teacher in those times. It was a space that asked patience and invited attentiveness. The sounds of crickets, the soft stir of leaves, and the occasional distant call of animals reminded the sleepers of the life moving quietly all around them. And as they listened, their prayers and verses would intermingle with the night, becoming part of its quiet song. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want, one might murmur, and the words would carry differently in darkness than in daylight, carrying calm, reassurance, and a soft focus for a weary heart. The ancient believers understood the night as both a protective cloak and an opportunity for reflection. Their prayers were not always spoken aloud. Sometimes they were thought, breathed in silence, or whispered so softly that only their own hearts could hear. And yet, in that intimacy, there was a profound connection. The night became a mirror, reflecting back both the fears and the faith of those who entered it. And through it all, the words of the Bible functioned as gentle anchors, reminding each person that even in the most profound stillness, they were held and known. As the hours moved slowly toward dawn, the believers would sometimes rise quietly to offer thanks for the night that had passed, for safety, for rest, and for continued presence. Others would continue to sleep under the same watchful stars, their dreams carrying verses into deeper layers of consciousness. And the ancient nights, although gone, left behind echoes that still resonate today, whispers that invite anyone listening to rest, to trust, and to feel the enduring comfort that comes from night prayers steeped in faith. The sky above, the words within, and the silence around all combined to create an environment where heart, mind, and spirit could find gentle, unwavering peace. The legacy of those ancient nights lives on. Even now, one can close the eyes, let the body sink into stillness, and imagine the same sky, the same stars, and the same comforting words, murmured softly across centuries, offering a space where rest is not only allowed but encouraged, and where every whispered prayer joins a chorus that stretches far beyond the bounds of time and place. Even in the quietest moments, when the world has slowed to a whisper and every sound seems distant, there is a presence that does not hurry, does not demand, and yet is profoundly near. Imagine the air around you softening, carrying a sense of calm that seems to settle inside your chest, easing the tension you may not even have realized you were holding. In these quiet hours, God meets those who feel small or unseen, offering a companionship that is steady and unwavering. It is not a presence that interrupts with noise or spectacle, but one that slips into the spaces where the heart feels empty, filling them with gentle reassurance that you are not alone. The stillness becomes sacred, and in that sacredness, the soul can sense the divine, quiet, yet undeniable. Loneliness is a human companion that comes in many forms, often unannounced, stretching its shadow over hearts weary from days of effort or nights filled with thought. Yet, it is precisely in these moments, when nothing seems to demand attention but the rhythm of breath and the pulse of life, that comfort arrives softly. Verses once murmured by countless souls now ripple across time, carrying the assurance that nearness exists even when it feels distant. Behold, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. A voice seems to whisper, wrapping around the mind and heart with a quiet authority that is neither harsh nor forceful. The words themselves become a gentle guide, inviting each listener to lean into the stillness rather than resist it, to allow the moment to become a space of connection rather than isolation. In the Bible, there are countless times when individuals found themselves alone, yet discovered God in the quiet. David often walked through shadows and solitude, lifting his heart in song when no one could see, no one could hear, yet a presence listened. Hannah whispered prayers in the sanctuary, words that seemed invisible to the human eye but carried weight in the unseen realm. Even Jesus, the teacher and shepherd of many, sought moments of retreat in the early morning hours or in deserted places, allowing himself to be alone yet accompanied by the infinite nearness of the divine. These moments were not dramatic displays of power, but intimate exchanges, a silent assurance that in quiet, presence can be found, understood, and felt. The human need for reassurance is constant, though often hidden beneath busyness and distraction. Even the strongest among us may feel the weight of uncertainty pressing in during the hours when the world has grown still. It is here that the quiet becomes more than absence. It becomes a sanctuary. The heart, previously crowded with thoughts and responsibilities, finds room to breathe. Gentle verses serve as soft anchors, holding the mind and spirit in a rhythm of calm. The Lord is near to all who call upon him, to all who call upon him in truth. Repetition in this quiet language does not overwhelm, but invites comfort to seep into every corner of awareness. It reminds the listener that even when words fail or thoughts scatter, presence is steadfast. Imagine lying awake under dim light or darkness, where the edges of the world soften into shadows and the day's noise has faded. In these moments, God's attention seems almost tangible, brushing against worries without forcing them aside, acknowledging fears without harshness. There is a subtle invitation to release control, to lay down the burdens that press upon the mind and chest, and to accept that presence alone can carry you through what cannot yet be understood or solved. Each whisper of a verse, each remembered promise, is like a gentle hand placed over the heart, a companion who does not leave, even when sleep is slow to come. This nearness is often described not in grand terms, but in imagery that is immediate and tender. It is as if the divine presence leans close to listen to every sigh, every heartbeat, every unspoken thought. The Psalms describe it beautifully, speaking to the depth of human longing and the comfort of God's proximity. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? These words are not meant to awaken intellectual debate or critical analysis. They are breathed quietly, absorbed into the night air, and allowed to take residence in the heart. The verses echo like soft footsteps across an empty room, constant, reassuring, intimate. Even those who have wandered far from certainty, those who have questioned, doubted, or struggled, find a meeting place in the quiet. Loneliness, grief, and anxiety are met not with reprimand, but with acknowledgement, as if the divine presence recognizes the full scope of human experience and chooses to be there nonetheless. It is a presence that does not rush solutions, but allows the listener to simply exist, to feel the steady rhythm of being known and held. There is a gentle echo in the heart, a resonance that quiets fear and invites trust, however faint or tentative it may be. Night provides a natural frame for this intimacy. As darkness deepens, the outside world fades, and distractions lose their urgency. The heart is invited into a dialogue without words. Breathing slows, muscles relax, thoughts begin to soften, and there is room to sense a presence that has always been near. In these moments, verses rise naturally, like soft, invisible threads, weaving the listener's heart to something larger, something eternal. They remind the mind that closeness does not always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it whispers, it lingers, it rests alongside, patient and unassuming. The quiet allows for reflection on life's intricacies without pressure, providing a gentle contrast to days filled with movement and noise. Those ancient prayers, murmured in the darkness of ages past, reach forward to meet us now. They remind us that solitude is not the same as abandonment, and that presence does not require perfection. The stillness becomes a vessel, carrying understanding in the form of soft verses. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Here, imagery is intimate and protective, words meant to cradle the listener rather than instruct, offering comfort in the simplicity of presence. Even in the moments when the mind continues to wander, when anxieties drift back to the surface, the awareness of being accompanied does not falter. A single verse remembered or softly spoken becomes a thread tying together fleeting thoughts and scattered feelings, drawing them into a rhythm of calm. Presence is more than abstract. It is tangible in the feeling of reassurance, in the gentle steadiness of consciousness, knowing that it is witnessed, known, and accepted. The human need for connection, for acknowledgement, for comfort, is met quietly, but fully, in these times, revealing a depth of care that transcends comprehension. As the night stretches on, the quiet becomes more than background. It becomes the medium through which nearness is felt. Each sound is softened, each heartbeat more noticeable, each whisper of memory or prayer more significant. The verses of Scripture continue to blend with the rhythm of the night, offering a slow, unfolding companionship that moves with the mind and heart. Even as sleep approaches, the presence remains, a constant companion who needs nothing in return but the stillness to enter. And in this gentle, unassuming nearness, the heart is offered the simplest, most profound comfort it can receive. The day has been long, stretching from the first pale light of morning until the moment the sun dips beneath the horizon, leaving behind a soft twilight that settles over every surface. By the time night arrives, the body may be tired, yet the heart carries its own weight, one that is not so easily laid down. There is fatigue that comes from movement, from labor, from words spoken and tasks completed. But there is another kind, deeper, quieter, more persistent. It is the fatigue of memory, of moments replaying endlessly in the mind, decisions that could have gone differently, words that should have been said, opportunities missed, all of them pile quietly, invisibly, like stones tucked into a bag that the heart refuses to set down. This is the emotional weight that each night seems to ask us to release, even if it feels impossible. Consider those figures in the ancient stories, the men and women whose lives have been recorded not just for their victories, but for the heaviness they bore. Jacob, for instance, walked with dreams both blessed and burdensome, carrying the anxiety of a heart that wrestled with family and fear. David, who often moved between triumph and despair, knew nights when guilt lingered longer than sleep, and regrets whispered louder than any voice of praise. Even Mary and Joseph, tasked with care and responsibility beyond ordinary comprehension, likely felt the subtle tension of worry in the quiet hours. They were not immune to the pull of accumulated weight. They, too, needed release. Their stories show that carrying a heavy heart is universal, timeless, and intimately human, and that the night offers a space for letting it go. To lay down such weight is not as simple as closing the eyes. It is an act of trust, a gentle surrender that does not come easily to a heart accustomed to holding control tightly. The mind may resist, cataloging every unfinished thought, every missed chance, every word that has bruised or gone unspoken. And yet, there is an invitation, whispered across centuries, that these burdens do not need to be carried alone. Scripture provides a rhythm for release, verses that do not scold or demand, but invite calm, breathing, and the passing of weight into a care greater than ourselves. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. The words are soft, but their effect is profound. They acknowledge the struggle, recognize the load, and offer a hand to set it down. It is in this sacred act of casting burdens that rest begins to take shape. The heart may still feel the tug of memory, and the mind may still turn over thoughts. But there is a subtle shift when one places what is heavy into trusted hands. The tension in muscles eases slightly, the breath deepens naturally, and the rhythm of the body begins to mirror the rhythm of faith. The act is not a dramatic gesture. It is quiet, intimate, and personal. It is whispered into pillows, spoken into empty rooms, carried in a soft murmur under the dark canopy of night. In these moments, the heart learns that weight is not always a personal trial to be borne alone, but a shared presence, capable of being received and held with care. Verses chosen for these moments often focus on surrender, on the gentle exchange of human worry for divine steadiness. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. The words flow like a stream, soft and unobtrusive, inviting each listener to release the knots within. They are not rigid commandments, but compassionate guidance, a map for those who feel cornered by their own thoughts, offering reassurance that weight need not remain forever pressed upon the heart. Even when guilt or regret seems insistent, the invitation persists, patient and unhurried, allowing the soul to let go at its own pace. There are nights when the weight seems insurmountable. The mind replays mistakes and what-ifs, and the chest feels as though it carries stones pressed into the ribs. In those moments, biblical figures serve as quiet companions. They too knew the long shadows of doubt and disappointment. They too had moments where the burdens pressed against the spirit. And yet, through faith and prayer, they discovered the rhythm of release. Each whispered verse or soft recollection becomes a bridge between despair and peace, a subtle turning point where the act of laying down the day's weight begins to reshape the night. The process is not instantaneous. Some nights, the mind may resist, and thoughts will swirl like leaves caught in an invisible wind. Yet, even in that resistance, the act of awareness itself, the recognition that the weight exists, the acknowledgement that it has been carried too long, marks the first gentle step toward release. By focusing on the stillness, by listening to the soft promises carried through Scripture, the heart finds space to expand, to breathe, to trust that care greater than its own can absorb what is pressed inside. He giveth his beloved sleep becomes more than words. It becomes a reality, experienced in the subtle loosening of tension, the easing of thought, and the gentle acceptance that rest is not earned, but offered. Even in ordinary daily life, there are small acts that assist in this process. The lowering of the body onto soft linens, the closing of eyes to shield the world, the slow inhalation and exhalation of awareness, all contribute to the slow unburdening. Yet the deepest comfort arises from the sense of presence that has been offered across generations of quiet reflection. Ancient prayers, ancient verses, and ancient acts of casting care forward remind the heart that it is part of a rhythm far larger than itself. The emotional fatigue, guilt, or regret that seemed so pressing can, in time, soften under this constant and patient invitation to release. In this sacred time, the night itself becomes an ally. Shadows are no longer threatening, but gentle curtains enclosing the sleeper in safe space. The very darkness, once heavy with unspoken worries, now feels like a companion that supports rather than oppresses. Verses from Psalms, Proverbs, and the Gospels filter into the imagination without demand. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Their effect is subtle but transformative, reminding the listener that control is not always necessary, that burdens can be shared, and that rest is not only possible, but already present if one allows it. Characters across biblical history demonstrate that the act of laying down weight is ongoing. There is no single moment where all worries vanish, no point at which regret entirely ceases. Instead, it is a practice of returning, night after night, to the quiet and the verses, to the acknowledgement that the heart's burdens can be received and held with care. Like Jacob resting with a stone beneath his head, or Hannah whispering prayers in a sanctuary, the listener finds a rhythm that is both gentle and persistent, a rhythm that slowly lifts what has been pressed too tightly. With each breath, each soft word, and each moment of awareness, a little more of the day's heaviness is released into the night, leaving the heart lighter, calmer, and more receptive to the gentle, unseen presence that surrounds it. Even as the mind continues to drift through memory, imagining the moments of frustration, disappointment, or shame, there is a companion in the quiet that reminds the listener of something essential. Burdens are not meant to be carried alone. Whether through the whispered lines of Scripture, the quiet reflection of the heart, or the steady rhythm of night, there is a space where release is possible. The act of laying down the weight of the day is not about forgetting or denying experience, but about acknowledging it, placing it in trustworthy hands, and allowing the mind and body to rest within the assurance that what has been carried so long can finally be softened and held gently beyond the self. Fear often arrives quietly, slipping into the spaces between thoughts and the shadows cast by dim moonlight. It does not always announce itself with noise or urgency, but settles like a weight upon the chest, pressing gently yet persistently, making the room feel smaller and the heart heavier. Nights have a way of magnifying these feelings. When darkness stretches across walls and the silence grows so deep that even small sounds become alarming. In such moments, the mind can imagine threats that are not present, revisiting old anxieties or inventing new ones. Fear, in this sense, is a familiar visitor, one that knows exactly how to sit beside a restless heart, how to whisper reminders of uncertainty, and how to make even the strongest mind feel unsteady. Even those whose lives have been recorded in sacred texts experienced fear in the dark. Moses, for instance, faced uncertainty at the edge of the wilderness, not knowing the future that lay before him, yet he moved forward, guided by a promise he could barely grasp. David, the shepherd who became king, often walked through nights that seemed endless, battling inner turmoil and enemies alike. Yet in those moments, he lifted his heart in prayer, seeking reassurance. Even the disciples of Jesus, traveling at night or hiding in fear after his arrest, wrestled with uncertainty and anxiety, their hearts trembling in the dim light of anticipation and doubt. These stories remind us that fear is neither a sign of weakness nor a failure, but an intrinsic part of the human experience, and that in facing it, even quietly, one is never truly alone. Scripture often approaches fear with tenderness, recognizing its presence without condemning it. Verses like, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God," offer gentle guidance rather than forceful instruction. These words do not demand immediate courage or the absence of trembling. Instead, they provide a safe space for the heart to breathe, acknowledging fear while simultaneously offering reassurance. It is as if the text leans in, softly reminding the listener that even when shadows feel heavy and the night seems endless, a presence stands near, ready to hold the heart with patience and care. Imagine lying awake, aware of each small sound in the room, the faint creak of a floorboard, the whisper of wind against a window pane, the occasional rustle of trees outside. Fear might arrive in response to these ordinary movements, turning them into imagined threats. Yet within the same quiet, there are words that carry steadiness. "When thou liest down, thou shalt not be afraid. Yea, thou shalt lie down, and thy sleep shall be sweet." These verses are not dramatic proclamations, but gentle reminders that night is not only a space of unknowns, but also of protection, a place where reassurance can be received, and where the heart can begin to release its grip on imagined dangers. Fear can also manifest in memory, recalling past mistakes, regrets, or unresolved conflicts. Ancient figures in Scripture often carried these burdens in silence, experiencing the night as a mirror of their anxieties. Hannah, praying quietly for a child she longed for, trembled in hope and desperation, yet through prayer, she found a measure of peace. Elijah, fleeing in despair from threats and persecution, rested in the shadows of caves, learning that even in fear, sustenance could be found through quiet communion with the divine. These examples show that fear does not have to be banished with force. It can coexist with calm, allowing moments of relief, trust, and surrender to take hold amidst the trembling. The presence of God in these quiet hours is often described not in grand displays, but in subtle reassurance. The heart senses it in the gentle rhythm of breath, in the soft recall of a verse, or in the imagination of a watching hand that neither interrupts nor judges. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Is murmured as a shield against the shadows, a promise that even when the world feels uncertain, courage is offered softly. These verses do not demand bravery. They invite comfort, allowing the listener to acknowledge fear without being defined by it, to accept presence without needing to chase it actively. In many nights, fear arrives without reason, yet Scripture suggests that the act of addressing it even quietly is powerful. The whisper of a verse, the soft repetition of a line learned long ago, or the gentle recollection of God's faithfulness creates a rhythm that the mind and heart can follow. Each repetition, each soft thought, functions as a tether, holding the heart steady while the shadows stretch long across the room. Fear may linger, but its edge is softened by words carried across time, by the knowledge that even ancient figures experienced the same tremors, the same uncertainty, and yet found calm in the presence of God. It is remarkable how intimacy and presence can transform fear. In the Bible, there are countless instances where fear is met with invitation rather than command. The angel approaching Mary whispers, "Fear not, Mary," as if aware of the weight such news carries. The shepherds in the field hear a similar message. "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy." The language is gentle, almost coaxing, carrying the understanding that fear is natural, and that reassurance can arrive without diminishing its validity. It is not a denial of reality, but a soft guide into trust, a way for the heart to adjust from trembling to resting. Even in modern nights, when fears can be amplified by the imagination or the unknown, the effect of these verses remains subtle and enduring. As the mind turns over worries about the past or anticipates possible troubles ahead, the reminder of divine presence can shift the focus from what might harm to what sustains. "I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee," becomes more than words. It becomes a soft pulse in the quiet, a gentle companion that walks alongside the listener, steady and patient. Without insisting on immediate change or courage, fear can manifest as physical tension too, pressing in the shoulders, tightening the chest, or quickening the breath. In these moments, the murmuring of Scripture is like a balm, allowing muscles to loosen imperceptibly, allowing the chest to expand and contract without resistance. The ancient rhythms of prayer, softly repeated in the imagination, mirror the quiet rhythm of the night itself. Even when sleep does not come immediately, there is a sense of being held, of being accompanied through the hours, where darkness no longer needs to be faced alone. Characters across the biblical narrative demonstrate that fear is part of faith, not the absence of it. Joseph in the pit, Daniel in the lion's den, The disciples in the storm each experienced tremors of doubt and vulnerability, yet each was reminded, often softly, that presence does not abandon the fearful. These stories provide reassurance that fear is not shameful, that trembling does not indicate weakness, and that gentle guidance is available to every heart, even when darkness seems long and unbroken. Night provides a unique frame for this intimacy. It is in the stillness, when all other demands have faded, that fear can be acknowledged and met with calm. Soft verses, murmured or reflected upon, offer a rhythm that the heart can cling to, a pathway from trembling to the faintest sense of peace. In this sacred pause, fear is neither dismissed nor magnified, but invited into awareness, alongside comforting truth. It is in this quiet meeting that courage can grow, not as a sudden surge, but as a steady, patient unfolding of trust and assurance that stretches across centuries and finds a home in the quiet of the present night. Even as the night deepens and the body grows heavy with the day's labors, there is a quiet promise that has existed through centuries, whispered gently in sacred texts and carried by countless hearts before us, the promise of rest. This rest is not merely a pause from work or a temporary escape from responsibility. It is an offering from a presence that understands the weariness of the human heart. In a world that constantly demands attention, energy, and vigilance, the act of lying down to sleep can feel almost rebellious in its simplicity. Yet, it is an ancient rhythm, a sacred trust, that invites the weary to release their hold on the day and allow care beyond themselves to take over, if only for a few hours. Sleep, in this sense, is never weakness. It is an act of faith, a declaration that even when the mind races and the heart carries burdens too heavy for a single chest, there exists a space where worries can soften and the soul can breathe. The Bible frames rest as a divine promise, reminding those who are exhausted that the night is not empty, but filled with purpose. Verses like, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest," invite the listener to step into a rhythm that transcends effort and achievement. Here, rest is not a passive retreat. It is an active trust, a surrender that is both gentle and profound, acknowledging the limits of human strength while embracing the unbroken steadiness of divine care. Throughout Scripture, rest appears as an essential part of human life, a recurring reminder that weariness is natural and that it is met with tender guidance rather than condemnation. Even those whose lives were filled with toil and responsibility experienced the sanctity of rest. Moses, after leading people through the wilderness, found moments to pause, to reflect, and to allow the burden of leadership to settle into calm. David, wandering under open skies or hiding in secret places, would sometimes rest even when danger lingered nearby, placing trust in a God who did not abandon the weary. These examples speak across generations, showing that rest is a covenant extended to all, and that sleep can carry healing far beyond the physical, into the emotional and spiritual depths. Jesus himself extends this invitation to the tired and burdened, offering words that are soft yet full of assurance. "Take my yoke upon you, and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls." The imagery here is tender, almost intimate, likening rest not to a moment of passivity, but to a rhythm of walking alongside someone who understands every strain, every ache, every anxious thought, that can weigh upon the heart. There is no expectation of immediate change or sudden courage, only the gentle assurance that presence itself can carry what feels too heavy. Sleep, then, becomes a continuation of this companionship, a sacred space where the soul can align with that promise of care and release. The promise of rest is woven into the nights in subtle ways, often unnoticed, until the heart slows enough to feel it. Imagine lying in bed as the last light of dusk fades, the body sinking softly into the mattress, and the mind beginning to notice the spaces between thoughts. In these pauses, verses murmured in memory or softly read aloud in quiet preparation for sleep become threads of calm. He giveth his beloved sleep. The words seem to breathe with the night, acknowledging the natural fatigue that accompanies life, while offering reassurance that nothing is lost in surrendering to rest. The act of sleeping is transformed from a necessity into a sacred engagement, a rhythm that connects human vulnerability with divine steadfastness. There is something profoundly intimate about surrendering to sleep, about allowing the body and mind to be carried without resistance into the night. The heart, often weighed down by regret, worry, or longing, can place each burden into an invisible hand, trusting that it will not be dropped or forgotten. The Psalms repeatedly return to this theme, blending imagery of protection, provision, and calm. In peace I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Here, rest is intertwined with a sense of security, not imposed externally, but received inwardly. A personal covenant of assurance. Each whispered line becomes a soft invitation to let go, to release tension, and to trust in what cannot be seen but can be felt in the quiet heartbeat of the night. Even in modern nights, when distractions and anxieties attempt to seep into every corner of awareness, this promise remains. The act of closing eyes, slowing the breath, and recalling a verse from the Bible is an anchor against the restless currents of thought. It is not a formula to produce immediate peace, but a gentle guide that allows the mind to shift its focus from worry to presence, from effort to surrender. Sleep, in this framework, is not passive. It is an engagement with trust, a decision to lean on a rhythm older than human memory, and to accept the care offered to the weary. The human heart, by nature, often resists rest. Thoughts clamor, concerns linger, and memories surface unbidden. Yet, the gentle promise embedded in Scripture addresses this resistance not with force, but with understanding. It acknowledges the fullness of human emotion, the complexity of human fatigue, and the weight of responsibility, while simultaneously offering an invitation to release. The act of sleep is sanctified, transformed into a dialogue of trust, where each exhale is a soft handing over of what cannot be resolved in the night, and each inhale is a gentle affirmation of presence and assurance. Those who have walked paths of labor, hardship, or constant responsibility understand that the night can feel long, and that the invitation to rest must sometimes be met with persistence and patience. Yet, with the soft repetition of comforting verses, the heart gradually learns the rhythm of surrender. It discovers that rest is not a denial of reality, nor an escape from responsibility, but a sacred participation in a divine rhythm that supports, renews, and upholds. Even when sleep is slow to arrive, the heart experiences a quiet companionship, a reassurance that weariness is seen, acknowledged, and met with tender care. The promise of rest extends beyond the physical, touching the emotional and spiritual layers of human experience. Guilt, regret, fear, and anxiety, which may press most heavily during the night, are invited to soften in the presence of these gentle words. As one listens, murmurs, or simply contemplates the promises of Scripture, the heart learns to shift from striving to surrender, from tension to acceptance, from unease to calm. Come to me, the words seem to say, and let your soul find its ease. There is no rush, no expectation of immediate relief, only the patient and persistent offer of peace that waits quietly for the listener to receive it. In these hours, the night itself becomes a partner in this promise. Darkness no longer threatens, but envelopes softly, creating a private, safe space where burdens can be laid down and where trust can be exercised without pressure. The rhythm of breath, the slow settling of muscles, the steady quiet of surroundings, all work together with the verses of Scripture to form a sanctuary for the soul. Even when the mind drifts, when thoughts wander to past events or future concerns, there remains a tether, a soft and unbreakable thread, connecting the heart to the promise of rest. This gentle invitation allows the weary to participate in a rhythm far older and steadier than their own, offering calm, reassurance, and a sense of being held that continues even as the body and mind yield to sleep. It is within this sacred, quiet space that the fullness of rest is realized. Sleep becomes not just a pause, but an act of trust and faith. Each heart that lies down carries with it the knowledge that even in vulnerability, even in exhaustion, care surrounds it. The promise of rest, whispered softly across generations of Scripture, becomes tangible in the rhythm of breath, the soft cadence of thought, and the gentle unfolding of night. It is a promise that renews itself every evening, available to any who choose to receive it, offering assurance, calm, and the quiet, yet unwavering presence that waits patiently for every weary soul. Even as darkness spreads across the land and the quiet of night settles over hills and valleys, there exists a presence both gentle and steady, like a shepherd moving silently through fields to watch over those entrusted to care. The imagery of the shepherd is one that has carried through centuries, woven into stories and verses that bring a sense of protection without urgency, guidance without force. Imagine the soft sound of footsteps on grass, the careful approach to a flock resting beneath the stars, each movement deliberate yet unhurried, ensuring that every sheep is safe, every heart untroubled. It is a picture of calm attentiveness, where vigilance is balanced with tenderness, and presence itself provides reassurance. In these moments of reflection, the mind can wander to the idea that life itself resembles a pasture at night, where hearts seek rest amidst uncertainty. The shepherd does not compel the sheep to lie down, nor does he scold them for wandering thoughts or restless moments. Instead, he walks quietly among them, noting which are troubled, which are uneasy, and offering gentle guidance that restores calm. This imagery resonates deeply when the mind is busy or the heart is burdened. It is not a picture of control, but of care, a reminder that there exists someone, a presence beyond the visible, who attends to the well-being of the soul, even while the sleeper is unaware. The psalmic echoes of this imagery remind us that protection and guidance are not distant, abstract ideas, but intimate and immediate realities. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," begins a rhythm that has soothed countless hearts across generations. These words do not demand effort or insist upon attention, but quietly invite trust. The idea is not that fear or unrest disappears instantly, but that there is a steady presence, patient and attentive, walking with the heart through the shadowed hours. Even when uncertainty lingers, when memories or worries press upon the mind, the metaphor of the shepherd reassures, care surrounds, safety remains, and rest is supported by gentle oversight. The shepherd imagery extends beyond mere protection to guidance. Just as a shepherd leads the flock to pastures and streams, the presence in these verses offers direction without force, encouraging the heart to find nourishment in quiet spaces. Sleep, then, is not a task to be achieved through effort, but a gentle movement into a place of provision and peace. The imagery allows the mind to relax, to imagine being guided without being coerced, to feel the subtle reassurance of attention that is continuous yet unobtrusive. It is in these silent moments that the heart can sense the balance between autonomy and care, a rhythm that allows rest to deepen naturally. Psalm-like storytelling enhances this sense of comfort, transforming night into a narrative where every shadow and every rustle becomes part of a gentle tapestry of protection. Verses recount green pastures, still waters, and pathways of righteousness, painting landscapes in which the listener can imagine themselves walking or lying down under vigilant care. Each line is soft and enveloping, meant to be received not as doctrine, but as a companion through the quiet hours. The repetition of imagery, the gentle cadence of words, and the focus on attentive, tender guidance allow the heart to settle, even when external circumstances remain uncertain. Consider the mental picture of lying beneath a night sky, the air cool and still, while a shepherd moves softly among unseen flocks. The mind can drift into the rhythms of care and attention, sensing protection without perceiving urgency. Even if the body is restless or the mind replaying fragments of the day, the image fosters calm, gently coaxing thoughts towards stillness. The shepherd does not chase fear away with force. Rather, presence itself, consistent and gentle, quiets the heart and invites trust. It is a presence that neither critiques nor demands, only watches and guides with a patience that spans the length of the night. Biblical narratives are filled with figures who understood the comfort of being led rather than compelled. David, who once shepherded his own flock, could have drawn from memory the quiet assurance of careful tending. His psalms reflect a deep understanding that guidance is most effective when it is soft, steady, and attentive. Even in moments of danger, when adversaries were near or shadows loomed large, the assurance of divine oversight allowed the heart to rest in ways that human reasoning alone could not provide. The shepherd metaphor reminds us that guidance and safety are intertwined with compassion, not control, and that trust grows naturally when the heart is met with patience. This imagery also speaks to the human experience of vulnerability. Sleep requires letting go, placing the body and mind into a state of temporary weakness. It is a time when fears, doubts, and uncertainties might surface. Yet the metaphor of the shepherd offers reassurance that no unrest goes unnoticed. Even when the mind drifts into worry, or the body tenses with lingering fatigue, the unseen presence remains, attentive and unwavering. The heart, recognizing this gentle care, begins to mimic the rhythm of trust, allowing tension to soften, breath to deepen, and the mind to gradually yield to rest. The shepherd's presence is not confined to individual experience. It extends to all who lie down under night's quiet canopy. The verses suggest a universal care, a guidance that neither excludes nor overlooks. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters, becomes not only a personal assurance, but a reflection of a rhythm that encompasses all creation. Even the restless, the anxious, the burdened find themselves attended to in these narratives. The gentle oversight implies that no moment of unease is too small to be acknowledged, and no heart too distracted to be held in trust. As the mind follows this imagery, fear and tension begin to loosen. The repetition of verses, the visualization of calm guidance, and the imagination of tender watchfulness combine to create a space in which the sleeper can gradually surrender. The heart senses continuity, the body begins to relax, and thoughts that seemed urgent begin to recede. The shepherd does not hurry the process. There is no rush or judgment, only a gentle rhythm that allows the sleeper to align with the reassurance offered. The night transforms from a time of potential unease into a sanctuary of quiet attention and calm presence. Even for those unfamiliar with the literal experience of a shepherd, the metaphor translates seamlessly into the emotional landscape of human life. Every person knows moments of vulnerability, times when guidance without force is needed most. Through psalm-like imagery, the mind can imagine protection, steady oversight, and a soft guidance that does not impose, but gently encourages. The listener begins to feel that sleep is not a passive surrender, but a step into a relationship of trust, a gentle, yielding to presence, care, and attention that has been present across generations. The quiet of night amplifies this feeling. In the stillness, every sound seems magnified, yet every soft reassurance carries more weight. The imagery of the shepherd attending to the flock encourages the heart to notice subtle shifts, the relaxation of muscles, the steadiness of breath, the quietening of restless thoughts. Even small acts of awareness focusing on the gentle pulse of life, listening to the faint sound of the wind, or recalling verses of protection, become reminders of constant presence. The shepherd is near, walking alongside each restless thought, each flicker of unease, each wandering moment, until the heart gradually aligns with the calm rhythm offered. This sense of being led rather than forced resonates through the night, offering comfort that cannot be measured, but can be felt deeply. The shepherd moves unseen, attentive to every movement, aware of every fear, yet allowing freedom within care. Sleep is no longer simply an end to activity, but becomes a participation in a rhythm of trust, a shared journey through darkness, where the heart is guided gently, softly, unhurriedly. Even in the midst of lingering tension or scattered thoughts, the reassurance remains. Presence and care are constant, steady, and patient, offering the soul a sanctuary that allows rest to grow naturally, moment by moment, breath by breath. Even as the sky deepens into darkness and the quiet of night stretches across towns, villages, and wild landscapes, there is a sense of vigilance that never fades. The night, while soft and still, is not abandoned. It is held under watchful care, where every shadow, every rustle, every whisper of the wind is attended to with a quiet attentiveness that humans can only imagine. The Bible presents night as a time that is alive with protection, a sacred space where the ordinary stillness of darkness is accompanied by extraordinary guardianship. For centuries, believers have found comfort in the knowledge that the hours of darkness, though seemingly vulnerable, are under constant care, guided by a presence that neither tires nor falters. In Scripture, the night is more than a backdrop. It is a canvas for divine guardianship and celestial vigilance. Angels and watchers are often depicted as moving silently through the darkness, attending to the needs of those under their care, ensuring safety from seen and unseen dangers alike. The stories of Daniel in the lion's den or the Israelites walking through the night on their journey reveal a world in which divine protection does not pause when the sun sets. Even when human perception fails, even when fear tempts the imagination, there exists an assurance that vigilance persists. It is a protection that cannot be measured by sight alone, but felt as a quiet, enduring sense of safety that accompanies the soul through the long hours of darkness. The idea that God never sleeps permeates these narratives with reassurance. Unlike the mortal limitations that require rest, divine guardianship extends across all hours, watching while hearts are weary and eyes are closed. Psalm 121 reminds the listener that He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep, offering a vivid picture of a tireless vigilance that contrasts human vulnerability. The night, with all its uncertainty, becomes a sacred time, not because danger is absent, but because the protective presence that attends to it is unceasing. There is a rhythm here, one that allows the human heart to let go of anxious monitoring, trusting instead in oversight that is constant, tender, and unfailing. Imagine lying in bed as the room darkens, the mind aware of each subtle sound, the creak of floorboards, the rustle of curtains, the occasional distant animal calling into the night. In those moments, fear or uncertainty could easily take root. Yet within this quiet, the soft repetition of protective verses provides a balm for restless thoughts. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. These words, gentle and unhurried, transform ordinary nighttime sounds from potential threats into reminders that each moment is attended to, that every breath is held in care, and that no shadow is beyond the reach of protection. Biblical night guards, both seen and unseen, often carry out their duty with subtlety, attending to the safety of individuals without overwhelming presence. The story of Jacob, who wrestled through the night and emerged changed by divine encounter, is a reflection of how night itself can hold sacred transformation under protective care. The text implies a world in which divine attention is always near, even when human understanding cannot fully perceive it. Angels hovering unseen, God's attentive presence, and the soft promise of protection through Scripture combine to form a rhythm that reassures the heart, weaving the ordinary silence of night with extraordinary care. Protection at night is not limited to physical safety alone. Many biblical passages reveal care for the inner life, guarding the mind, the heart, and the spirit as attentively as the body. The psalmist's declaration, "I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety," exemplifies the idea that safety encompasses more than absence of danger. It includes calm, trust, and the ability to surrender fully into the rhythm of rest. Here, protection and peace are inseparable, and the listener begins to feel that night is a space for holistic care, where the heart can be quiet, the mind can slow, and the body can yield to a rhythm beyond its own control. Even in the presence of fear, night brings opportunities for reassurance. Consider those moments when memories of danger, worry, or uncertainty press heavily upon the mind, making sleep elusive. Biblical narratives and verses act as gentle companions in such times. The story of David, hiding in caves from enemies while awaiting deliverance, illustrates how divine protection can remain unseen yet profoundly present. The watcher who does not rest ensures that safety is maintained even when the heart trembles. These passages invite the listener to imagine themselves under a canopy of protection that stretches across time and space, unbroken and unwavering. Night protection also has a communal dimension. Throughout Scripture, believers are often reminded that care extends beyond the individual, encompassing families, communities, and even entire nations. The stories of Israelites journeying through desert nights, guided by pillars of cloud and fire, convey that protection is layered, intricate, and constant. It is not haphazard. It is measured and attentive, safeguarding both the visible and unseen elements of life. These narratives reinforce the idea that, while humans may be limited in their ability to watch, God's vigilance is comprehensive, embracing every sleeping heart without omission. The imagery of night watchers fosters a sense of intimacy and reassurance. Imagine angels moving silently, observing with quiet attentiveness, their presence subtle but perceptible to those whose hearts are open to trust. Every rustle in the leaves, every distant sound in the dark, is met not with alarm, but with soft attention. The verses remind the listener that even the smallest worry, the most fleeting thought of danger, is recognized and held. This reassurance does not overwhelm the sleeper. It simply offers a steady rhythm of care that allows fear to soften and trust to grow. Protection through darkness is also intertwined with patience. The night can feel long, particularly when the mind is unsettled or the heart heavy, yet the attentive presence remains constant, unmoving, and unobtrusive. The act of guarding does not hurry. It does not demand. Rather, it allows the human heart to gradually align with safety and calm. Soft biblical verses act as a gentle conduit, connecting the listener to a vigilance that does not sleep, a rhythm that stretches through hours, quietly cradling every thought and motion until tension eases and the body relaxes into rest. Even modern ears, hearing these promises of protection, can sense the same rhythm. The knowledge that care persists through darkness, that there is no hour too quiet or too fraught for attention, encourages the mind to release its habitual monitoring. Each whispered verse, each soft reminder of divine guardianship, becomes a tether to calm, allowing the heart to perceive the night not as a time of vulnerability, but as a space of quiet oversight. Sleep becomes participation in this protective rhythm, where presence attends to every restless thought and every anxious heartbeat without interference, only with patient care. The notion of protection through darkness also aligns with the broader biblical theme of trust. To trust in unseen guardians is to acknowledge human limitation while embracing a rhythm that surpasses comprehension. The night, with all its unknowns, becomes a classroom for faith, where each quiet hour teaches the heart how to rest within a tension that is constant, gentle, and complete. Sleep, once elusive or uneasy, is softened by the awareness that no moment is overlooked, no shadow is ignored, and no heart is left unattended. This vision of night as a protected space transforms ordinary darkness into a sanctuary. Each sound, each shift of air, each subtle movement of the body is cradled under watchful care. The mind, once racing with potential worries, begins to follow the rhythm of attention and vigilance that has been described across centuries in Scripture. Protective verses, woven softly into memory or murmured aloud, act as anchors, tying the heart to reassurance that stretches across time. As the sleeper yields, the night unfolds as a sacred, guarded space where fear recedes, and the heart rests gently under unceasing care. The promise of protection through the hours of darkness is both timeless and immediate. It calls the listener to perceive night not as absence, but as presence, not as emptiness, but as a space infused with attentive guardianship. Angels, watchers, and divine oversight together create a rhythm of calm, enveloping each sleeper in quiet reassurance. The verses remind the heart that darkness is not neglect. It is held, attended to, and accompanied with care that never tires. Even as the world sleeps, the vigilance continues, steady and tender, ensuring that rest, peace, and safety are always within reach, silently surrounding every heart that lies down to sleep. Even in the quiet of the night, when shadows stretch across walls and minds wrestle with the lingering fragments of the day, hearts often find themselves struggling with trust. It is not always a dramatic or outwardly visible turmoil. Sometimes it is subtle, a quiet hesitation, a soft questioning that stirs beneath the surface. In these moments, doubt can feel like a companion, lingering in the corners of thought and tugging gently at the certainty that one seeks. Yet the Bible offers narratives of hearts that learn to trust even in such darkness, showing that faith often grows not in the blaze of revelation, but in the gentle unfolding of quiet perseverance and whispered reassurance. Consider the figures in Scripture whose nights were filled with uncertainty, who faced invisible trials that left them anxious and contemplative. There is Joseph, alone in a foreign land, uncertain of his future, yet continually held by a promise he could barely articulate. His journey was not marked by grand, sudden transformations, but by a patient, steady reliance on guidance he could not always see. Each act of obedience, each silent moment of reflection, became a step toward trust, an alignment of the heart with a rhythm of care that transcended immediate understanding. The narrative does not dramatize fear or doubt. It presents it as a quiet, human reality, and shows how faith can take root in such ordinary, fragile moments. Similarly, the disciples in the Gospels experienced nights filled with internal questioning. When Jesus spoke of trials and uncertainties, they often struggled silently, wrestling with understanding and fear. Even Peter, bold in daylight, felt the weight of doubt under the cover of darkness. These passages reveal a profound truth. Trust often emerges not in the absence of difficulty, but in the embrace of it, in the willingness to remain attentive to what is promised, rather than what is immediately visible. Their faith grew quietly, nurtured by presence, gentle guidance, and repeated reminders that they were never alone in their uncertainty. The growth of trust in darkness is often subtle, marked by small acts of surrender rather than dramatic declarations. A night spent in prayer, a whispered verse recalled from memory, a breath taken with intention, all of these contribute to the quiet construction of faith. Verses such as, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" do not force reassurance. Instead, they offer a soft, consistent invitation to lean on something steady, to let the heart rest on a presence that does not falter even when the human mind wavers. In this way, the night becomes a classroom of faith, where trust is learned gradually, almost imperceptibly, yet deeply enough to anchor the soul. Even ordinary moments in darkness carry the possibility of building trust. A parent watching over a sleeping child, a person lying awake in a quiet room, or someone reflecting on the day's mistakes, all experience the subtle pull of reliance. These moments mirror the experiences of biblical figures, showing that trust often grows quietly alongside the natural rhythm of life. There is no need for spectacle. The transformation occurs in stillness, in the gentle acknowledgement that one is not abandoned, that every uncertainty, every fear, is met with steady care. The concept of trust in darkness also extends to the relational aspect of faith. Biblical narratives frequently emphasize that trust is not only a personal endeavor, but one that is shared within a community or a lineage of promise. When David faced uncertainty about enemies surrounding him, or when Hannah prayed silently for a child, their faith was not solitary. It was intertwined with promises, with the reassurance of presence, and with the awareness of continuity that spanned generations. Trust, then, is both intimate and communal, growing in the quiet spaces of the night, and strengthened by the knowledge that others, seen and unseen, are part of the same pattern of care. Verses based on gentle promises reinforce this quiet cultivation of faith. They do not command belief, they offer reassurance. "Cast your burden upon the Lord, and He shall sustain you," becomes a whisper in the dark, a soft instruction that asks only for openness, not dramatic compliance. The promise itself holds a rhythm, a gentle cadence that eases anxiety and encourages the heart to yield, slowly, to reliance. Each repetition, each reflection, allows doubt to soften, permitting trust to take root without forcing the process, nurturing faith through calm and consistency rather than through spectacle or coercion. The imagery of night as a teacher of trust is subtle but powerful. Darkness does not vanish suddenly. It unfolds gradually, and so does trust. A heart that hesitated, that questioned, that recoiled at the uncertainty of the unseen, can begin to perceive patterns of care and constancy. The sleeper, lying quietly, may feel the soft reassurance that comes with recalling verses of guidance, protection, and steadfast presence. The human spirit, even when fatigued and vulnerable, responds to this gentle rhythm, aligning itself with a promise that does not demand perfection, but simply invites attention and surrender. This quiet development of trust is also reflected in moments of prolonged waiting. Characters like Abraham, who waited for years for the fulfillment of a promise, demonstrate that faith is strengthened not by immediate clarity, but by the endurance of quiet hope. The night, often filled with lingering questions and uncertainties, becomes a companion to patience, teaching the heart to trust in timing that may surpass immediate understanding. Sleep, reflection, and whispered prayers serve as instruments in this quiet education, each hour reinforcing the lesson that care is constant, even when the mind cannot fully perceive it. In the ordinary human experience, nights of doubt are inevitable. Thoughts replayed, anxieties amplified by silence, and fears that seem more tangible in darkness, all challenge the heart's inclination to trust. Yet, the gentle whisper of Scripture acts as a guide, a presence that moves softly alongside the sleeper. Verses such as, "I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee," are not mere words. They are soft, steady companions that reassure, offering continuity and constancy. Each repetition, each meditation, nurtures the heart's confidence, allowing trust to develop as naturally as sleep itself. The process of learning to trust in the dark is often invisible, unnoticed, even by the individual experiencing it. Yet each night spent leaning into the promise of care Each moment of surrendering fear to a presence beyond the self quietly reshapes the heart. Over time, these small acts of reliance accumulate, forming a foundation of faith that can endure even the brightest or most turbulent of days. The heart, once tentative, begins to recognize that darkness is not empty or threatening, but filled with attention, protection, and gentle guidance. In many ways, these biblical lessons mirror the human desire for reassurance in moments of vulnerability. The night offers a space for reflection, for meditation, for quiet engagement with the deeper rhythms of existence. The heart learns that trust is not a single act, but a series of small choices, moments of attention, recollections of verses, breaths taken with intention, and the willingness to lean on unseen care. The promise-based verses serve as touchstones, gentle markers that remind the listener that faith can grow quietly, steadily, and reliably, even in the presence of doubt. The subtlety of this transformation is what makes it enduring. There is no dramatization, no sudden resolution. Trust grows in the spaces between wakefulness and sleep, in the intervals of quiet reflection, in the moments when the heart is still enough to notice the presence that has been accompanying it all along. By the time sleep fully arrives, the mind has already absorbed lessons in reliance, patience, and surrender. Each whispered verse, each reflection on past promises, becomes a foundation that supports the heart, allowing faith to settle in gently, firmly, and quietly. Through these quiet nights, hearts that once trembled in uncertainty come to recognize a pattern of care that is unbroken. Doubts, while still present, lose their ability to dominate, replaced by the steady pulse of reassurance woven into scripture and imagination. Trust becomes a natural rhythm, a companion to sleep, a soft yet resilient presence that undergirds the soul. Each hour in darkness, rather than provoking fear, becomes an opportunity to practice reliance, to witness the quiet growth of faith, and to experience the subtle but profound comfort that comes from knowing that even in the absence of light, care and protection remain, unwavering and constant. The night settles in like a soft exhale, stretching across the room and the mind in quiet layers, inviting the body to mirror its rhythm. There is a subtleness in this darkness, a gentle encouragement to notice the ebb and flow of breath, to feel the rise and fall of the chest, and to allow the heartbeat to slow under its own natural cadence. In these moments, peace is not something forced or earned. It is received, quietly entering the spaces of the mind and body that had been tense with the activities and worries of the day. The night encourages surrender, and in that surrender, the heart begins to synchronize with a rhythm that is older and steadier than human effort, an unspoken invitation to stillness that carries its own quiet authority. Imagine lying in bed, the body pressed softly against familiar sheets, the air cool but comforting. Each breath becomes a thread connecting the present moment to a deeper calm, a movement inward that allows the mind to let go of its habitual racing. The senses gradually notice the smallest shifts, the faint whisper of wind against a window, the soft creak of a floorboard in the distance, the quiet rhythm of one's own heartbeat. These sensations are not distractions. They are markers of life that remind the sleeper of continuity and presence. With each inhalation, the heart expands slightly, and with each exhale, tension loosens, as if the body itself is learning to match the stillness of the night. Peace that slows the breath often comes when the mind is willing to step back from its usual insistence on understanding or planning. The quiet moments between thoughts become more noticeable, as if they were spaces designed to let assurance seep in gently. Verses from Scripture, softly recalled, carry the same rhythm. Philippians, for instance, speaks of a calm that surpasses human understanding, an inner serenity, not contingent upon circumstance, but resting on presence and promise. Repeating such phrases silently, or merely allowing their meaning to drift through the mind, allows breath and heartbeat to find a new rhythm, slower, deeper, more attuned to a gentle stillness. The imagery of breath and heartbeat connects intimately with the concept of receiving peace. Unlike effortful action, which can sometimes produce tension or frustration, receiving peace requires a quiet willingness to be present. In the stillness, the heart recognizes that it is attended to, that the body's natural rhythms are a reflection of life's enduring steadiness. Each inhalation carries the soft assurance of being. Each exhalation releases the subtle weight of worry or fatigue. The mind may wander, circling around small concerns or distant memories, but the return to breath is constant, a gentle anchor to the rhythm of presence that never fails. Longer pauses, implied in the imagination, add to this effect. One can almost hear the quiet between heartbeats, the gaps between inhalation and exhalation, and in those intervals, peace can gather. It is not loud or demanding. It does not impose itself with urgency. Instead, it moves slowly, almost imperceptibly, into the spaces of the mind, settling there like soft light that does not disturb but illuminates gently. The night itself seems to teach this lesson, that stillness is powerful, that inner calm is a rhythm to be noticed and embraced, and that each pause between actions or thoughts is an opportunity for the heart to rest. The body responds naturally to this gentle rhythm. Muscles that had been coiled during the day soften, shoulders drop slightly, hands loosen their hold on tension, and even the face relaxes, as if each breath carries away the subtle imprints of fatigue. This physical easing mirrors the movement of the mind from agitation to calm. Thoughts that once circled anxiously now slow, creating space for quiet reflection or simple observation of the present. The psalmist's words, reminding that the Lord grants rest and comfort, find resonance here, not as instruction but as accompaniment, as if each verse is a silent partner in the act of breathing and receiving peace. In imagining the broader rhythm of life, one can see how nights of quiet reflection and slowed breath teach a lesson about presence and attention. Daily life, with its urgent tasks and constant stimulation, often moves too quickly for the heart to notice its own rhythms. The night, however, offers a pause, an opportunity to synchronize with a gentler cadence, breathing slowly, feeling the heartbeat, and acknowledging the body's presence in space, all become acts of surrender that nurture peace. The mind, recognizing this rhythm, begins to trust in its own capacity for calm, in the availability of rest that is not contingent on external circumstances, but on the quiet embrace of attention to breath and heartbeat. Even subtle gestures of awareness reinforce this peace. Rolling over gently, adjusting the pillow, or letting a hand rest lightly on the chest creates a small yet tangible connection to the present. With each movement, the body communicates with itself, noticing the space it occupies and the rhythms it maintains. The mind, listening to these cues, slows further, matching its tempo to the natural cadence of life itself. Peace, once elusive, now enters incrementally, carried on the soft rhythm of inhalation and exhalation. on the gentle oscillation of the chest and the quiet tap of the heart in the stillness. Biblical imagery enhances this experience, suggesting that inner peace is not merely the absence of noise or distraction, but a tangible presence that settles in harmony with the body's natural rhythm. The recurring assurance of protection, provision, and guidance found in verses acts as a kind of heartbeat for the spirit, subtle yet steady, marking intervals of calm throughout the night. In these passages, the mind finds a partner for the body's natural rhythms, creating an integrated sense of serenity that encompasses thought, feeling, and physical awareness simultaneously. The concept of slowing breath and heartbeat also encourages reflection on the subtleties of gratitude and trust. Each inhalation is an opportunity to receive the gift of presence. Each exhalation becomes a release, a letting go of accumulated tension or worry. The night teaches that peace is not imposed but allowed, that serenity is not a goal to be chased, but a rhythm to be noticed and received. As attention rests on these subtle movements, the heart becomes aware of a steady, unspoken rhythm that carries through every hour of darkness, softly cradling the soul and offering a space where even the heaviest thoughts can be met with gentle patience and calm. In these quiet hours, the mind and body together participate in a rhythm that mirrors divine assurance, calm, attentive, unhurried. The heartbeat, once quickened by stress, slows, each thump resonating with the subtle promise of safety and care. Breathing becomes a cycle of acceptance, each pause between inhale and exhale a space for the heart to recognize the constancy of presence. In this way, inner peace is received not as a reward, but as a natural companion to awareness, a quiet yet profound response to the gentle rhythm of night, breath, and attentive reflection. Even the imagination can enhance this experience, envisioning light filtering softly through curtains, or the quiet stir of leaves outside. Each detail reinforcing the feeling of continuity and care. The sense of inner peace becomes palpable, extending beyond the body to touch thoughts and emotions, smoothing the edges of lingering worry and allowing the heart to rest. In these moments, it is clear that the night, when paired with awareness of breath and heartbeat, transforms into a sanctuary. Here, peace is not demanded, it is received, slowly, rhythmically, and enduringly, teaching the sleeper the art of calm through the simple, profound act of noticing the steady cadence of life itself. As attention continues to follow the natural rise and fall of breath, the night deepens, and the sense of calm becomes more comprehensive. The body, mind, and spirit align in a subtle dance of surrender and reception. Each breath is a gentle echo of divine rhythm, each heartbeat a reminder of steady presence, and each pause a space in which the soul can rest. Slowly, without pressure or urgency, the stillness becomes a companion, the quiet a friend, and the night itself a teacher of enduring peace, guiding the heart through hours of calm that continue to ripple gently, long into darkness, until sleep arrives naturally, carried on the unhurried rhythm of breath and attention. The night holds a quiet that is unlike any other time of day. It is a stillness that invites reflection, a pause from the noise and obligations that press upon the mind during waking hours. In this gentle silence, God often speaks not through thunderous proclamations or dramatic visions, but through whispers woven into the fabric of rest. The Bible provides numerous glimpses of this subtle form of communication. God reaching hearts through dreams, through gentle conviction, through the quiet reassurance that comes while the body and mind surrender to sleep. It is a communication that does not demand attention, yet finds its way into the soul, shaping thoughts, emotions, and even actions in ways that awaken understanding long after the night has passed. Consider the dreams of Joseph, which began as confusing and mysterious images, yet carried profound meaning. In the privacy of night, while he lay resting, God used these dreams to shape his path, to prepare him for challenges and triumphs that he could not yet comprehend. There is no urgency in this kind of communication, no spectacle designed to shock or overwhelm. Instead, it is quiet, intimate, and deeply transformative. The sleeping mind becomes a vessel, receptive to impressions and guidance that are subtle but enduring. These nocturnal messages are not always fully understood in the moment, yet they carry seeds that grow slowly, shaping the contours of life and trust. Rest itself becomes a medium for divine presence. The act of laying down to sleep is, in a sense, a surrender of control, a trust that unseen hands will hold what is fragile, that unseen eyes will watch over what cannot be guarded by human effort. The psalmist reflects this in soft, unhurried words. "In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." Such verses are not dramatic. They are whispers that invite the heart to receive assurance without the need for spectacle. They teach that God's communication is often quiet, woven into the rhythm of life rather than imposed upon it, present in the spaces between wakefulness and rest. Healing occurs in these silent exchanges as well. Nights provide time for the body to recover and for the heart to process experiences, but they also open space for spiritual restoration. Emotions that had been tangled during the day, fear, regret, sadness, can gently untangle themselves in the presence of a silent, attentive God. It is in these hours that the soul can experience renewal, absorbing understanding and peace in ways that cannot be forced or hurried. Even brief moments of attentiveness during waking hours can extend into the subconscious as God speaks through subtle impressions, guiding the heart toward forgiveness, clarity, or encouragement, without the need for verbal instruction. The imagery of night emphasizes the intimacy of this silent communication. Stars scattered across the sky, the soft hum of the wind, the faint rustle of leaves. These elements of darkness become companions in the process of receiving, each natural sound and visual detail acting as a gentle nudge to awareness. The heart, attuned to subtleties, begins to recognize the presence of care that is not always articulated, a reassurance that can neither be quantified nor hurried. The smallness of the night, its quietness, and its stillness become powerful teachers, reminding the sleeper that not all influence requires noise. Sometimes, the most profound guidance is delivered in silence. Biblical narratives abound with examples of God speaking without words. Elijah, for instance, experienced the divine not in the roar of wind or earthquake, but in the still, small voice that followed. The principle carries into the hours of sleep, where dreams and impressions serve as conduits for quiet instruction. In these moments, the human mind is softened by the natural lowering of sensory vigilance, creating receptivity to what is subtle and indirect. The guidance is gentle but unmistakable for those who are attentive. A shift in perspective, a sense of reassurance, an unspoken prompting toward decisions or reflection that will bear fruit with time. Inner healing is another dimension of night's silent dialogue. As the body rests, so too does the mind, And within this space, God's presence can calm lingering anxieties, soothe grief, and temper doubts. The scriptures gently remind that He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. This healing is often quiet, subtle, and cumulative, felt more as an easing of tension than as a dramatic change. A single night may not resolve every worry, yet each night's rest carries with it an opportunity for spiritual restoration, shaping the heart to trust, to forgive, or to embrace hope without urgency or fanfare. Dreams themselves are an enduring symbol of God's silent language. They are enigmatic yet meaningful, offering imagery that speaks directly to the subconscious. Daniel, for instance, interpreted dreams that held messages of wisdom, instruction, and revelation. These nocturnal encounters are not loud, but carry profound weight, often requiring reflection to understand. The act of remembering, contemplating, and discerning in the waking hours transforms the subtle impressions into guidance that shapes behavior, decisions, and emotional resilience. It is a rhythm that invites patience and attentiveness, cultivating trust in a God who communicates softly but consistently. Even ordinary nights, those without overt visions or memorable dreams, carry a sense of this divine conversation. The quiet, punctuated by breath, heartbeat, and subtle movement, allows the mind to tune into patterns, rhythms, and feelings that might otherwise be drowned in the day's noise. It is in this receptive state that God's influence is often most evident, through sudden insights, feelings of encouragement, or the gentle resolution of anxieties that seemed insurmountable. There is a teaching here that not all communication requires words, and not all influence must be immediate or dramatic. The most profound shifts often come through cumulative, understated presence. Verses interwoven subtly into thought or memory act as guides within this silent dialogue. Phrases like, "Be still," and "Know that I am God," invite the heart to quiet itself, to notice subtle promptings, and to receive reassurance. They do not demand action, but encourage awareness, a soft attentiveness to what is already unfolding within. The power of these verses is in their simplicity and minimalism. A few carefully chosen words that echo in the mind like gentle currents, shaping perception and providing anchors of calm and understanding. The night, therefore, becomes both a canvas and a conduit for divine presence. Each moment of stillness allows the sleeper to absorb subtle guidance, to sense a presence that does not need to shout to be known. The gentle illumination of trust, the soft reassurance in the absence of words, and the quiet healing of heart and mind all contribute to an experience of night as sacred, attentive, and deeply comforting. It is a time in which God's care can be felt not as a spectacle, but as a rhythm, a presence that molds the heart and mind quietly, persistently, and intimately. Even as the hours pass, the quiet continues to teach the heart about receptivity and surrender. The sleeper, unaware of the full impact of these moments, absorbs impressions that shape faith, resilience, and emotional steadiness. Subtle spiritual imagery, soft lights, gentle movement, the rhythmic sound of breath reinforces the sense of being attended to, of not being alone. Each night becomes a session of silent instruction, a gentle communication that works without interruption, without demand, and without the need for explanation. In the repetition of these nights, trust grows quietly alongside sleep. The mind learns to notice subtle cues, to find reassurance in ordinary rhythms, and to recognize the soft presence of guidance that never intrudes, but always accompanies. Each whispered verse, each gentle prompting in dreams or reflection, becomes part of a tapestry of care, reminding the heart that God communicates, even when no words are spoken, that influence can be gentle, yet profound, and that the night is not empty, but filled with attentive, unhurried presence that nurtures both soul and spirit. The stillness of the night is not a void, but a sacred space where divine communication can flourish unseen. Breath slows, muscles relax, thoughts drift, and yet beneath this quiet surface, subtle impressions shape understanding and perception. God's presence in silence becomes tangible, not through volume or spectacle, but through the resonance of rest, the gentle unfolding of dreams, and the slow shaping of the heart toward trust and healing. The night, in all its calm and darkness, is a living companion, offering guidance without words, reassurance without force, and intimacy without the need for dramatic display, carrying the heart gently into understanding, comfort, and quiet wisdom. There comes a moment in the quiet of night when the soul feels the gentle invitation to release, to let go of burdens it has been carrying through hours and days alike. It is not a dramatic act, nor one forced by circumstance. It is a subtle realization that holding on tightly does not lighten the load, but that surrender can bring an unexpected lightness. The breath, soft and steady, becomes a marker of this release. Each exhale, a gentle loosening of tension that had woven itself into muscles and thoughts alike. In these moments, the heart senses the possibility of trust without pressure, a quiet assurance that what is surrendered is not lost, but received and held with care. The mind may waver initially, hesitant to release control, but the body, attuned to the rhythms of night and quiet, often leads first, signaling a readiness to let the soul rest in the hands of something greater. Throughout Scripture, there are moments that mirror this quiet surrender. Consider Hannah, praying for a child in deep longing and sorrow. Her voice, though soft, expressed a heart weighed down by desire and pain. When she finally releases her plea into the divine care, there is a sense of letting go, a recognition that the outcome rests beyond her grasp. Her surrender is not marked by panic or forceful insistence. It is intimate, deeply personal, and full of trust born from patience. It is a model for the soul, showing that release does not require perfection, only openness and quiet intention. Similarly, David, often on the run and surrounded by uncertainty, finds moments in the Psalms where he casts his anxieties upon God, acknowledging that he cannot carry everything alone. These biblical narratives remind us that the act of surrender is a natural human response to the realization that we are not meant to bear every burden by ourselves. The night itself seems to facilitate this process. Darkness softens the edges of the world, creating a buffer between the chaos of day and the serenity that invites release. Shadows become companions, not threats, providing a cocoon in which the soul can unclench. The soft rhythm of the body in repose mirrors the quiet invitation to let go, to allow tension, guilt, regret, and worry to be lifted one by one. Sleep becomes a physical and spiritual conduit, a medium through which the heart can practice releasing control, trusting that what is surrendered is not abandoned, but lovingly carried. Breath becomes an essential companion in this gentle letting go. Inhaling slowly, one senses the life and presence surrounding every cell. Exhaling, the soul releases weight, emotional mental, and spiritual, letting each breath serve as a conduit for liberation. It is in these subtle, unhurried cycles that surrender finds its most natural expression. The mind may interject doubts, reminding the heart of unfinished concerns, lingering regrets, or unfulfilled desires, yet the rhythm of breath and the gentle pull of presence offer reassurance. Gradually, the soul learns to trust that letting go does not equate to loss, but rather aligns with care, provision, and peace that transcends immediate understanding. The act of surrender is deeply human and yet profoundly divine in its recognition. Biblical accounts often depict this intertwining of human vulnerability and divine care. Moses, standing before a vast and uncertain path, relies on God to carry the weight of responsibility that his own strength cannot bear alone. His surrender is not passive, it is active trust, a conscious decision to release anxiety and lean into guidance that promises support without compulsion. The night, in this way, becomes a living echo of these ancient moments, offering the soul a chance to rehearse and experience this same intimate exchange. Comfort is an essential element of this surrender. It is not harsh, demanding, or insistent. It is gentle, soothing, and enveloping. The night seems to wrap around the heart like a soft mantle, carrying a message that every concern handed over is met with steady care. Scripture reinforces this in subtle, quiet ways, offering assurances that God's arms are ready to carry what we release. Verses such as, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you," are soft beacons, quietly affirming that letting go is not an abdication of responsibility, but an act of participation in a rhythm of care larger than ourselves. The repetition of such promises within the quiet folds of night embeds trust slowly, organically, in the soul, teaching that surrender is a natural part of life and rest. Imagery of the heart, like a vessel, helps convey the beauty of this letting go. Consider the notion of dropping a heavy stone into gentle water. The weight is immediately relieved from the hand, absorbed into a medium that does not crush or resist, but cradles it, allowing the ripples to carry it gently outward. The soul operates similarly when it surrenders. The heaviness is no longer held in isolation, but shared with a presence capable of maintaining and transforming it. The night's silence magnifies this effect. Each ripple of thought, each pulse of breath, each gentle sigh reinforcing the assurance that release is safe, that the load has a caretaker beyond our immediate perception. Sleep itself becomes a teacher of surrender. As consciousness fades, the body and mind naturally let go of control over muscles, movement, and awareness. This physical release mirrors spiritual surrender, demonstrating that letting go can be a soft, natural process, rather than a strenuous effort. Nightly practice of such release cultivates patience with oneself, recognizing that not every worry or regret can be solved in the moment, but that each can be entrusted to care that is constant, compassionate, and encompassing. Even the smallest act of acknowledging a burden and mentally placing it into safe hands fosters a subtle peace that deepens as the hours pass. The soul learns gradually that surrender does not diminish identity or agency. Rather, it refines them, creating space for reflection, clarity, and renewed strength. Characters in Scripture, from the humble servants to the most renowned prophets, often find that the act of letting go brings insight, restoration, and readiness for what comes next. In the quiet of night, these lessons resonate gently. Surrender is not defeat. It is alignment, an acknowledgement of limits paired with trust in provision that is steady and unwavering. It allows the heart to rest, the mind to pause, and the body to find rhythm in stillness. Comfort-heavy narration emphasizes that this process need not be hurried or forced. The night encourages the heart to take time, to breathe deeply, to notice subtle movements within, and to recognize the soft rhythms of care that surround it. A hand on the chest, a gentle exhale, a reflection on a verse that affirms presence and provision, all serve to cultivate a sense of safety and peace. These small, intentional acts compound across nights, creating an enduring sense of reassurance that extends into waking hours. In surrender, there is also a sense of partnership with the divine. The soul is not passive. It participates in release, choosing openness and receptivity. Each burden placed into gentle care becomes an opportunity to experience relational trust, a dialogue without words that confirms presence, attention, and love. Night and scripture together guide this interaction, offering imagery and phrases that reinforce the softness of letting go and the strength inherent in trusting that one is held. The subtle beauty of these moments is that they happen gradually, almost imperceptibly. One night may bring the first sigh of relief, the next a deeper recognition of trust, and over time, the heart learns a rhythm of surrender that is both calming and sustaining. Heavy thoughts, regrets, and anxieties do not vanish instantly. Instead, they are softened, reshaped, and carried in ways that allow the soul to continue functioning with gentleness and resilience. The act of release becomes a recurring practice, a nightly rehearsal of trust and care, a way of aligning with rhythms far larger and steadier than the day's demands. Through this slow and deliberate surrender, the soul discovers a sense of liberation that is both tender and profound. The night teaches that letting go is not a sign of weakness, but a recognition of boundaries, a practice of trust, and a form of intimate care. Comfort flows in layers, wrapping the heart in the knowledge that every burden released is not abandoned, but held with compassion. The rhythms of breath, the soft pulse of heartbeat, and the presence implied in whispered verses all converge to form a sanctuary for the soul, a place where surrender is welcomed and nurtured. As this process unfolds, the sleeper becomes aware of a steady assurance that accompanies the letting go. Each exhale carries weight outward. Each pause in breath is an invitation to notice presence. And each gentle shift of awareness reinforces the truth that surrender is not empty, but filled with support. In these nights, surrender is not a single event, but an unfolding, a quiet journey, a practice that transforms heaviness into lightness, worry into trust, and solitude into intimate connection with a presence that carries what we release with infinite care. There is a certain comfort that comes from knowing some things remain unshaken. Some truths remain steadfast, even when the world feels uncertain and the night stretches long. God's promises, whispered through scripture and remembered in the quiet hours, wrap around the heart like a warm blanket, softening edges and lending a gentle sense of safety. Imagine lying beneath the ceiling of night, the cool air brushing the skin, yet beneath that chill, there is a warmth that does not fade, a warmth not generated by heat alone, but by assurance, by the steady pulse of presence and care that does not waver. The repetition of promises becomes a rhythm that aligns with breath, echoing through the mind in soft waves, like a lullaby carried by the night itself. Psalm after psalm, verse after verse, carries these gentle reassurances. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, speaks not of wealth or power, but of security, of guidance, of a quiet presence that attends even the smallest need. Repeating such lines in the mind or softly in a whisper allows the heart to rest in their familiarity, to feel the protective weight of assurance without effort. Each repetition is a stitch in a blanket, woven not from fabric, but from trust, carrying a sense of steadiness and safety into the subconscious. The night becomes a vessel for these reminders, holding the sleeper in its embrace, while the promises themselves circulate like gentle warmth through the body and spirit. The imagery of blankets, of wrapping and covering, is central to understanding this comfort. Just as a blanket shields from cold, God's promises shield from fear, doubt, and uncertainty. They are ever present, available at every moment, and capable of being called upon. Whenever the heart notices the weight of the day pressing down, the mind can drift into concern, revisiting unresolved matters or lingering anxieties. Yet the memory of Scripture, repeated slowly and softly, acts as a counterbalance. It soothes like the steady heartbeat of someone close, a rhythm that does not demand attention, but quietly encourages rest, trust, and ease. Consider the story of Abraham, whose life was a succession of promises that seemed impossible yet were unwavering. Each night, as he faced uncertainty, he held onto God's words, promises that would one day unfold, even when the immediate circumstances seemed barren. The repetition of these promises was not a mantra for distraction, but a soft recognition that the Creator's care did not falter. This echoes in the quiet nights of our own lives. When rest is difficult and thoughts keep returning to worries, softly recalling promises acts as a gentle tether, anchoring the heart to steadiness and hope. Safety, both physical and emotional, is woven into this imagery. The mind, aware of the dark and of unknown elements, finds reassurance in the thought of God's faithful protection. Verses that speak of being surrounded, guarded, or lifted in care become more than words, they become sensations, a feeling of being tucked in, cradled by presence, and shielded from harm. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. A verse, recalled slowly, conjures warmth and security as vividly as a blanket drawn close on a cold night. The gentle rhythm of sleep and breath mirrors the protective cadence, encouraging the mind to settle, the body to release tension, and the heart to accept the steadiness offered. The repetition of familiar promises mirrors the patterns found in sleep itself. Just as the body drifts in cycles of deep and light sleep, the mind circles around comforting lines, softening tension each time they pass through awareness. There is no hurry, no need to grasp them. They are present, patient, and persistent, like soft vibrations beneath the surface, waiting for recognition. The psalmist's words, the gentle assurances of care, the quiet reminders of presence and provision, all act as stitches in the ongoing fabric of reassurance, producing a layered comfort that deepens as night wears on. Even small gestures enhance this experience. Closing the eyes, feeling the pillow's gentle support, noticing the rise and fall of the chest, all become accompaniments to the rhythm of promises. The heart, sensing these subtle markers, becomes more receptive to the warmth carried by repetition. There is a connection between physical comfort and spiritual assurance. One reinforces the other. As the body relaxes, the mind softens, and the soul becomes more capable of receiving the security embedded in gentle scripture lines. The act of noticing breath, heartbeat, and the soft settling of muscles can deepen the sense of being held, of being protected, and of resting safely under a canopy of care. Promises do not only provide reassurance, they teach patience and trust. The quiet night amplifies these lessons, creating a space where time itself seems to slow, encouraging the mind to dwell on consistency rather than urgency. Consider the words given to the Israelites during their long journey. Assurances of guidance, provision, and protection repeated night after night, promise after promise, like a slow, gentle rhythm that never failed. These verses, imagined or whispered softly, allow the heart to anchor itself in the continuity of care, reinforcing the sense that the present moment, however fraught, is enveloped in something steady, enduring, and reliable. The metaphor of a blanket extends to emotional and spiritual weight as well. Worries, regrets, and fatigue can press heavily on the chest, but with repeated acknowledgement of God's promises, these weights are eased. Each recollection of faithful provision, of enduring guidance, and of attentive presence acts like a layer of warmth pressed close, softening anxiety and lending comfort. Even the subtle movements of night, the wind brushing against a window, the quiet creak of a house settling, become companions to this process, highlighting the contrast between outer stillness and the inner warmth of trust. Subtle variations in Scripture reinforce this comforting rhythm. Verses reminding of guidance, provision, protection, and love can be gently rotated in thought, creating a soft cadence that mirrors breathing. This movement allows the heart to feel enveloped rather than pressured, a rhythm that soothes both mind and body. As sleep deepens, these repeated images and phrases do not demand conscious effort. They become part of the night's gentle pulse, a companion that sustains and reassures even through the lighter, restless hours. The imagery of night itself complements this blanket of promises. Darkness, rather than threatening, acts as a canvas for warmth, as a backdrop that highlights the comfort of what is reliable. The mind, which might otherwise ruminate on what cannot be changed, finds direction in these repeated assurances. Each recitation, each recollection, each pause spent noticing a comforting phrase becomes a thread in the fabric of peace. The heart begins to anticipate this rhythm, finding solace not in what is new or distracting, but in what has been proven, faithful, and protective. Even the gentle layering of awareness and verse can mimic the tactile sensation of a blanket pulled closer, softly noticing the weight of sheets on the shoulders, the rise and fall of the chest, the subtle warmth in hands or feet parallels the layers of reassurance carried in Scripture. These small markers allow the mind to anchor itself in the physical and spiritual sense of safety, cultivating a rhythm of ease that encourages the heart to release tension. The combination of presence, repetition, and gentle imagery creates an environment in which the soul can rest fully, trusting that the night is both protective and nurturing. The promises become a quiet song, sung without sound but deeply felt. Each line recalled or imagined reinforces a sense of being attended to, of having boundaries respected, and of resting within care that is constant and unwavering. In the quiet of night, where the mind might otherwise wander into fear or doubt, these reminders offer continuity, a rhythm that mirrors the rise and fall of breath, the steady beat of the heart, and the gentle folding of the body into rest. Trust grows slowly here, not through urgency, but through repetition and presence, allowing the heart to settle into peace, wrapped in a comfort that endures beyond waking hours. As the hours progress, the blanket of promises deepens its effect. The soft repetition, the awareness of breath and body, the gentle imagery of protection, all converge to form a sanctuary within the night. The sleeper, guided by subtle rhythm and repeated assurances, feels held, not just by fabric or pillow, but by words that echo steady, safe, and enduring. Each layer of trust adds warmth, softening residual tension and quieting restless thoughts. The heart, aligned with the rhythm of breath and the cadence of Scripture, drifts into a space where care is constant, presence is unwavering, and the gentle embrace of God's promises becomes a lasting comfort throughout the hours of darkness. Even when the mind has been tossed and turned by the swirling currents of worry, doubt, and emotion, there comes a moment, a quiet pause when the inner storm begins to settle. It is not always immediate or dramatic. Rather, it creeps in gently, a soft easing of tension that had wrapped itself around the heart like a vine. Thoughts that seemed relentless slow their pace, and the breath, once uneven and hurried, finds a steadier rhythm. In these quiet moments, one becomes aware of the subtle shift. A calm is forming, not imposed from outside, but arising naturally from the surrender of resistance, from the acknowledgement that not all matters can be controlled or resolved by human effort alone. The night, dark and still, holds this space like a gentle container, offering an environment in which reflection can unfold without interruption, without judgment, and without pressure. Biblical narratives often mirror this pattern, illustrating the emergence of calm after intense emotional upheaval. Consider Jonah, who had wrestled with anger, fear, and resistance, confined in the darkness of the great fish. In that stillness, a change begins, though not immediate. The calm grows from the surrender of struggle, the soft acknowledgement of divine presence, and the acceptance that some things must unfold according to a higher plan. The Psalms frequently echo this rhythm. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. These verses do not demand understanding. They simply invite the heart to notice the gentle easing of tension, the soft restoration that comes when struggle gives way to trust, however quiet or tentative it may be. Emotional resolution is rarely linear. It emerges like the softening of clouds after a storm, with patches of light filtering through shadows, bringing relief without erasing the memory of turbulence. The Bible depicts countless individuals who found this rhythm, from David in his moments of despair to the disciples wrestling with confusion and fear. Each narrative reflects the truth that calm is not always sudden or absolute, but gradual, a gentle unfolding that requires space and stillness. The night mirrors this process, offering the darkness as a canvas for reflection, for the mind to process experiences, and for the heart to feel the subtle easing of unrest. Breath becomes a marker of this emerging peace. As the body responds to the night's quiet, the breath lengthens and deepens, creating a rhythm that soothes the nervous system and signals to the mind that it is safe to relax. Heartbeat, once accelerated by worry, slows in gentle synchrony with the body's natural inclination toward rest. In this physical stillness, emotional release is supported, and the soul begins to recognize the subtle presence of care and steadiness surrounding it. Each inhalation offers fresh awareness, and each exhalation releases fragments of unease, regret, or frustration that had accumulated during waking hours. Soft reflections accompany this process, often in the form of gentle thoughts, remembered verses, or whispered prayers. The words of Scripture, when recalled in the mind or heart, act as tender reminders that resolution is possible, that unrest can give way to peace, and that moments of turmoil do not define the entirety of experience. Passages like, "Cast your burden on the Lord, and He will sustain you," or, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted," do not erase difficulties, but they offer a cushion of understanding, a quiet companion that accompanies the heart as it moves toward calm. Reflection in this way is not analytical or forceful. It is a gentle noticing, an acknowledgement of both struggle and the gradual softening that follows. The calm after an inner storm often manifests as a heightened awareness of presence, both human and divine. One may feel more attuned to the gentle movements of the body, the rhythm of breath, or the soft sounds of the night around them. There is a sense of alignment, of becoming attuned to something larger than the immediate whirl of thoughts. Biblical imagery frequently captures this quiet restoration. Still waters, gentle shepherding, the soft unfolding of guidance. These images do not insist on resolution, but they provide reassurance that the storm does not have the final word, that peace can emerge subtly, layer by layer, through quiet awareness and gentle acceptance. Even in the absence of dramatic resolution, this period of calm carries profound significance. It allows the heart to integrate experiences, to process lingering emotions, and to recognize the support that has always been present. Even when unnoticed, night serves as both a witness and a facilitator, offering a context in which reflection, surrender, and quiet attention can converge. In the slow unfolding of calm, the heart can practice trust, patience, and gentle acceptance, learning that peace is not always instantaneous, but it is accessible when attention softens and the soul allows itself to rest in presence and care. Soft reflections also create space for hope to emerge alongside calm. As tension ebbs, the mind and heart can perceive possibilities, not as pressing demands, but as gentle glimpses of what might unfold. Biblical verses, reinforcing protection, guidance, and love, support this perception. "Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life," or, "He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge." These lines are repeated quietly, almost like a heartbeat, integrating into the sleeper's awareness, fostering a sense of reassurance, and grounding without urgency or insistence. The repeated rhythm of familiar words and images aligns with the natural cadence of the night, enhancing the emergence of serenity. Imagery of soft light and gentle movement amplifies this process. The dim glow of moonlight filtering through curtains, the subtle rustle of leaves, or the quiet hum of distant life all act as companions to the calming inner experience. These external cues reinforce the internal rhythm, guiding attention towards softness, stillness, and the delicate unfolding of peace. In this environment, reflection becomes more accessible, and the gradual release of lingering worries or restless thoughts is supported by both the physical and spiritual ambiance. The heart, attuned to these subtle cues, begins to notice that calm is not the absence of all thought, but the presence of a steadying companion that cushions the mind and eases emotional tension. Even fleeting moments of relief or awareness are significant, as they signal that the inner storm is not eternal, that the turbulence does not define the soul's capacity for rest. Scripture, gentle and persistent, provides a companionable framework, verses highlighting God's nearness, care, and protective presence act as invisible hands, supporting emotional equilibrium, whispering assurance, and nurturing the gradual emergence of calm. Night's calm is also reflective of rhythm, the ebb and flow of the body, the natural cycles of light and dark, the recurring patterns of thought and rest. As these cycles align with the heart's growing stillness, an organic sense of order emerges, not forced or artificial, but as a quiet reflection of the natural and divine order embedded in creation. Breathing becomes slower, muscles relax, and thoughts that had been jagged and scattered begin to flow in softer patterns. The heart experiences the gentle rhythm of reassurance, a continuity that nurtures trust, comfort, and the acceptance that the storm's intensity has softened, leaving room for subtle restoration. Even memories of challenges, fears, or regrets begin to take on a less pressing character. They linger, but their weight is lessened, reframed by the soft awareness that presence and care remain constant. Verses echo quietly. Images of protection and guidance unfold, and the inner landscape transforms into a space where reflection is met with acceptance, and emotion is tempered by gentle understanding. The night, patient and undemanding, provides a rhythm that mirrors the heart's new steadiness, reinforcing that calm is not fleeting or accidental, but an emergent property of surrender, reflection, and attentive awareness. Through these layers of soft reflection and gentle attention, the heart learns that the calm following turmoil is a sacred rhythm. It is not dependent on resolution of every external circumstance, but on the acknowledgement that care, presence, and steady guidance exist even amid difficulty. The night facilitates this learning, offering darkness as a container, breath as a marker, and scripture as a companion. Each element reinforces the other. Presence supports reflection. Reflection enhances surrender, and surrender allows the calm to deepen. In this way, the inner storm fades not through force or haste, but through gentle attention, rhythmic awareness, and the quiet embrace of assurances that have endured across time. The heart, body, and mind are drawn into a cohesive rhythm, a cycle in which rest, reflection, and reassurance converge. Soft verses, repeated in the mind or heart, create a fabric of trust and security that parallels the gradual settling of turbulent emotions. Even the smallest awareness of breath, heartbeat, or subtle movement becomes a reminder of steadiness, a tangible signal that calm is not distant, but emerging organically, quietly, and faithfully through the night. As the night deepens, the soft resonance of these moments expands, weaving through thought, memory, and emotion, creating a subtle continuity of presence and care. Tension eases, thoughts flow more gently, and the heart is invited into a rhythm of soft peace. The storm, though remembered, no longer dominates. Instead, the calm that follows is a living presence, layered, sustaining, and accessible, guiding the sleeper through the quiet hours with steady, patient assurance and gentle, persistent comfort. Even as darkness stretches over the landscape, drawing shadows into corners and softening the edges of the world, there is a quiet assurance that surrounds those who rest under its canopy. The night itself becomes a gentle shroud, not of fear, but of protection, a covering that mirrors the unseen presence of God. Imagine the deep velvet of darkness folding over the earth, wrapping every sleeping soul in a subtle embrace. A reminder that though eyes are closed and the world feels distant, divine care is never absent. There is a rhythm to this protection, a soft cadence that mirrors the rise and fall of breath, a heartbeat that aligns with the quiet insistence of care, steady and unwavering, even when the mind wanders into thoughts of uncertainty or lingering worry. Psalm after psalm brings this imagery vividly to life, offering verses that speak of God's nearness, shelter, and constant vigilance. The Lord is my rock and my fortress, it says, not as a distant proclamation, but as a gentle whisper, a soft assurance that nothing escapes his awareness, not even the quiet stirrings of the mind in the middle of the night. These words, repeated softly in thought, act like invisible arms circling around the sleeper, creating layers of reassurance that cushion against the weight of lingering fear, fatigue, or unrest. The repetition itself becomes soothing, a rhythm that draws the heart toward calm, a gentle echo of steadfast presence that persists even as the hours deepen. The imagery of wrapping and surrounding recurs naturally in Scripture. The metaphor of God covering his people with wings or shielding them under his care is a motif that invites the imagination to dwell in safety. One can picture the soft sweep of protection, like feathers brushing against the mind, a constant, quiet presence that does not crowd or impose, but simply exists, steady and reliable. The night, though silent and still, becomes a vessel for this gentle layering of reassurance, each moment of darkness carrying the soft hum of unseen care, a companion to the sleeper's consciousness, as thoughts gradually slow and the body finds its natural rest. Protection in the biblical sense often combines both vigilance and gentleness. God is present not as a harsh overseer, but as a careful guardian, attending to every moment with quiet attention. The stories of night watchers, of angels who shield and guide, reinforce this rhythm. Even when danger or uncertainty hovers at the edges of life, the sleeper remains enveloped in divine care. Verses that speak of the Lord keeping watch, that he neither slumbers nor sleeps, become tender markers of reassurance, woven into the mind's fabric as one drifts deeper into quiet reflection. The heart, already sensitive from the day's labors and concerns, senses the constant presence, and the mind relaxes into this unseen embrace, allowing the body to mirror the stillness and security that flows from such attentiveness. There is also a natural rhythm to divine protection, a cadence that aligns with the cycles of night and sleep. As the hours progress and the body settles into deeper rest, the mind's awareness of gentle protection can follow a similar pattern. Early evening might carry lingering tension, the middle of the night a subtle sense of stillness, and the later hours a steady, gentle layering of calm. Each phase mirrors a soft repetition of promise, a quiet echo of care that reinforces the notion that nothing in the night goes unnoticed, that every soul under the vast expanse of darkness is seen, valued, and surrounded. Psalm-like storytelling allows this imagery to unfold slowly, in layers that the mind can absorb without effort. The words themselves become a rhythm, circling around consciousness, soft and unhurried, like a gentle lullaby that does not demand attention but offers reassurance at every pause. Verses about refuge, the Lord is a stronghold, and his eternal vigilance invite the imagination to dwell in the sensation of being encircled, of having a protective presence that is both intimate and vast. The night becomes a sacred theater, where the sleeper is the focus of divine care, even as sleep blurs the boundaries between awareness and surrender. The repetition of comforting scripture in this context is not redundancy, but a natural layering, each line adding depth to the sense of protection. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. Or, the Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. Are soft murmurs of continuity, markers of presence that the mind can revisit gently, allowing reassurance to settle deeply within. The rhythm of repetition mirrors the rhythm of breath, the pulse of the heart, creating a cohesive sense of security that envelops the sleeper from within and without. Night itself amplifies the imagery of protection. In darkness, senses sharpen, and imagination can paint the unseen layers of care more vividly. The mind, aware of shadows and quiet movements, can now frame them as gentle guardianship, as protective waves flowing from a presence that is constant and vigilant. Each rustle, each faint sound, no longer evokes fear, but becomes a reminder that nothing is out of care's reach, that divine protection is comprehensive, tender, and persistent. The quiet world outside mirrors the quiet reassurance inside, creating harmony between external stillness and internal security. The heart, as it begins to relax under this awareness, senses the unfolding of calm in tandem with protection. Emotional turbulence softens. The tension accumulated throughout the day melts into a steady sense of safety, and the mind finds space to breathe without urgency. The imagery of wrapping, surrounding, and enveloping becomes more than metaphor. It becomes felt experience, a subtle awareness of being held in care that extends beyond physical comfort. Each sigh, each pause, each soft awareness of breath aligns with the rhythm of promise and protection, reinforcing the gentle layering that persists through the night. Even the smallest awareness of repeated verses contributes to this effect. Whispering them softly in the mind, recalling their imagery, allows the heart to align with the rhythm of divine care. The mind begins to associate darkness, not with vulnerability, but with the tender layering of protection that is always present, quietly attentive and enduring. Each line of scripture becomes a soft stitch in a tapestry of reassurance, building a sense of security that is both intimate and expansive, personal and universal. The presence of protection is not always dramatic. It is quiet, consistent, and enduring. The imagery of the Lord surrounding the sleeper is complemented by the sense of rhythm in the night itself. The gentle passing of hours, the soft movement of air, the distant hush of activity, creating an environment where the heart, mind, and body can settle into a layered sense of care. The repetition of gentle verses, the soft awareness of breath and body, and the quiet attentiveness of divine presence merge into a seamless experience, allowing the night to serve as both protector and guide. Even when thoughts drift into uncertainty or worry, the awareness of divine protection remains, a subtle current beneath the surface of consciousness. It does not demand focus or energy. It simply exists, a persistent reminder that the sleeper is not alone, that the night does not hold danger without care, and that the heart can rest within the layers of vigilance, tenderness, and faithfulness. This soft repetition, the awareness of being wrapped and shielded, and the quiet unfolding of reassurance create a night that is rich in calm, rhythmic, and secure presence. Through these layers, the sleeper's soul is gently cradled. The rhythm of repeated promises, the imagery of surrounding wings, the psalm-like cadence, and the quiet attentiveness of divine care form a fabric of reassurance that extends through the hours of darkness. It is a protective embrace that is steady, soft, and unwavering, a presence that does not tire, and a rhythm that aligns with the natural patterns of breath, heartbeat, and the deepening quiet of night. The mind, sensing the constancy, allows tension to dissipate, and the heart accepts the layers of care offered through gentle repetition and vivid imagery. The combination of night covering, psalm-inspired reassurance, and the soft rhythm of repeated verses cultivates a space where the sleeper can exist entirely within the awareness of protection. Each subtle cue, the rise and fall of breath, the quiet layering of familiar words, the imagined sweep of protective presence reinforces the sense of being encircled by care. The body, mind, and heart begin to synchronize with this gentle rhythm, cultivating rest, peace, and subtle vigilance without effort. As darkness deepens, the imagery of wrapping in divine protection expands, becoming an all-encompassing rhythm. The repeated reminders of God's care, the tender imagery of being held, and the soft awareness of steady presence converge to form a sanctuary within the night. Every detail, the soft repetition, the quiet rhythm, the gentle layering of promise, works in harmony to allow the heart to rest securely, to feel surrounded, and to experience the calm and safety inherent in being wrapped entirely in divine protection. Even as night deepens and the stillness settles over the world, the mind often wanders to the unknown hours ahead, imagining what tomorrow might hold. It is natural for the heart to carry questions, fears, and subtle anxieties about what is coming, about tasks unfinished, decisions pending, or paths yet unseen. Yet within the quiet of the night, there exists a gentle invitation, a soft whisper that encourages letting go of the burdens of the future, not through force or denial, but through trust, the kind of trust that rests in something larger than the immediate and the visible. This is not the hurried reassurance of a checklist completed or a solution found. It is a calm awareness, a surrender of the restless mind to the rhythm of care and divine guidance. The biblical world often reflects this gentle rhythm of trust. Characters across Scripture faced days and nights of uncertainty, with futures that seemed fragile or precarious. Abraham, gazing at stars that spanned the night sky, could not see the full path before him. Yet he held on to promises that felt intangible, trusting in the unseen. Mary, carrying hope and fear intertwined, moved forward step by step, even when the coming days felt heavy with responsibility. Their examples remind us that trust is cultivated quietly, like a soft flame in the darkness, not forced by effort, but nurtured through presence, prayer, and repeated reminders of care. As the mind considers what might come, the breath can serve as a tether, a gentle anchor back into the present moment. Inhaling slowly, one notices the rise of awareness, and exhaling, a subtle release of tension, a letting go of the imagined weight of tomorrow. Biblical verses can naturally weave into this rhythm as gentle murmurs that guide the heart toward quiet reliance. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Speaks not as a command, but as an intimate assurance, a soft invitation to place trust in continuity beyond human control. These words, when repeated softly in the mind, form a cadence that eases the restless chatter, allowing the heart to lean into the gentle unfolding of tomorrow as it comes. Hope, in the biblical sense, is not hurried or anxious. It is patient, tender, and steady. It does not insist that outcomes be certain or immediate, but it reassures that presence, care, and guidance endure regardless of human understanding. The quiet assurance of divine oversight encourages the heart to relinquish imagined burdens, to see tomorrow not as a threat, but as an opportunity to experience gentle unfolding in alignment with care that transcends current worries. Each night becomes a space in which hope can grow slowly, nurtured by soft reflection, gentle awareness of breath, and the subtle echo of verses that speak of steadfastness. The act of letting go of future worries is not passive. It is an active practice of awareness and trust. It begins with noticing tension in the shoulders, the chest, or the jaw, the places where anticipatory concern often resides, and allowing these areas to soften. As the body releases, the mind finds space to follow, and the heart begins to recognize that holding on to worry does not control tomorrow, nor does it prepare the soul for rest. In this release, a rhythm forms, a back and forth between awareness of concern and gentle surrender, creating a flowing balance that mirrors the night's own cadence. Biblical verses about trust emphasize this rhythm repeatedly. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act. Or, the Lord is my helper. I will not fear what tomorrow brings. Function like soft guideposts, lightly marking the path toward calm. These words, simple yet profound, are woven into the tapestry of reflection as one lies in the quiet of night. They remind the heart that trust is a companion, not a distant abstract, and that surrendering worries is not failure, but a natural response to the constancy of divine care. Imagining the coming day, the mind can shift from apprehension to gentle curiosity, noticing that not every moment must be anticipated or managed. Biblical imagery supports this gentle shift. The lilies of the field, which neither toil nor spin, yet are clothed in beauty. The birds of the air, fed and watched over, without striving for certainty. These images invite the sleeper to breathe more deeply into trust, to allow the mind to rest in rhythms that transcend human effort, and to notice that the unfolding of tomorrow does not require control, only presence, attention, and gentle reliance. Trust, when nurtured through reflection and gentle awareness, extends its influence into the body as well. Muscles relax, heart rate slows, and breath deepens, reflecting a body in alignment with a mind that has begun to let go of imagined burdens. Even the small awareness that tomorrow's weight need not be carried alone provides a subtle easing, a soft opening through which rest can enter fully. In these quiet hours, trust becomes tangible, not abstract, felt in the settling of the body, the slowing of thoughts, and the gentle steadiness of the heart. Repeated verses and imagery can reinforce this nightly trust. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber, or cast all your anxieties on him, for he cares for you. Become gentle companions in the dark, their words flowing like a soft current that underlines the sleeper's awareness of constant care. The repetition is not monotonous, but rhythmic, like the pulse of night itself, echoing in breath and thought, offering reassurance that nothing in tomorrow's uncertainty escapes the presence that watches and holds. The night, with its steady darkness and absence of demand, mirrors the process of trusting tomorrow. Just as stars appear in unhurried succession and moonlight moves across the landscape at its own pace, so too can the heart release tension gradually, allowing each concern about the future to settle lightly and quietly. There is no rush, no urgency, no need for immediate resolution, only the patient, constant presence that allows trust to deepen in small, tender increments. This process transforms the perception of tomorrow from a source of fear or pressure into a gentle continuum, a flow that is guided, cared for, and observed. As awareness of divine protection intertwines with the letting go of imagined outcomes, the heart experiences a subtle alignment with the unseen rhythms of care. Thoughts about what might happen begin to carry less weight. Their intensity softens, and the mind becomes capable of resting in gentle expectation rather than strained anticipation. Faith in tomorrow emerges quietly, like a soft dawn behind the mind's clouds. It is nurtured not through force, but through the rhythmic awareness of presence, the soft repetition of verses, and the tender alignment of body and mind with the night's natural cadence. The heart gradually learns that the unknown is not a threat, but a space in which trust can grow. Surrendering the anxiety about tomorrow is not forgetting responsibility. It is allowing space for divine care, for reassurance, and for the quiet unfolding of life according to patterns beyond immediate perception. Even the smallest reflections, the whisper of familiar words, the imagined guidance of care that stretches beyond the night contribute to this rhythm. Each soft iteration of promise, each gentle return to breath, reinforces the heart's capacity to rest. The mind begins to distinguish between what it can influence and what it cannot, releasing tension from the areas where control is illusory and gently resting in the quiet assurance that comes from placing trust in constancy and care. Through the night, this practice deepens, creating a layered sense of safety. Trust is no longer abstract. It is experienced physically and emotionally, in the softness of breathing, the relaxation of muscles, and the subtle steadying of thoughts. Biblical imagery of God's faithful presence, care for the small and unseen, and protection across time reinforces this internal rhythm, guiding the heart to a state where the unknown hours of tomorrow feel less like a burden and more like a gentle, unfolding journey under watchful care. The mind, body, and spirit, intertwined in this rhythm, settle into a pattern that carries both the surrender of worry and the gentle cultivation of hope. Each breath, each whispered verse, each soft reflection works together to remind the heart that trust is a living practice, one that unfolds slowly but steadily, allowing tomorrow to be approached not with fear or urgency, but with calm, quiet confidence in the enduring presence that surrounds and watches, minute by minute, moment by moment, through every dark hour until the first light of day. Even as the body sinks into the gentle embrace of sleep, an unseen work begins, a quiet mending that the mind cannot always perceive. The hours of darkness become a sanctuary, a place where the soul, weary from the day's burdens, receives subtle care. Emotions that have been stirred, thoughts that have carried tension, and the subtle aches of the heart all find space to release. Each sigh and breath echoing a rhythm of rest that invites healing. There is a sacredness to this quiet, a recognition that while the world sleeps, divine presence moves tenderly, attending to every fragile corner of the spirit, offering restoration without demand or awareness. The Bible often points to the night as a time for God's care to unfold silently. Verses whisper of His unseen work, comforting and steady. In peace I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety, says the psalmist. And these words do not simply describe a practice of sleep. They describe a deep surrender to care that restores more than the body. There is an intimacy in the night, a quiet that allows the heart to open, to release the accumulated weight of anxieties and regrets. Healing is not loud or dramatic here. It is gentle, persistent, and invisible, like light slipping slowly through a window pane, illuminating the soul without startling it. Throughout Scripture, God's work often moves unseen, like roots growing beneath the soil, or streams carving valleys through rock over centuries. The night mirrors this quiet diligence. As eyes close, muscles loosen, and breathing slows, the soul begins to synchronize with this rhythm. Emotional wounds that have clung to the mind in the daytime find their edges softened, and grief or frustration begins to ebb in subtle waves. The heart, sensing the constancy of divine care, can release tension with minimal effort, trusting in the invisible processes that operate for restoration and peace. Comfort imagery flows naturally in this setting. One can imagine a soft light touching the soul gently, a warmth that spreads through the chest and into the extremities, a slow and unhurried reassurance that all things, seen and unseen, are held. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds, speaks softly into the mind, each word like a brushstroke across tender spaces. These scriptures are not abstract lessons. They are experiences folded into the rhythm of breath. Each inhale a quiet intake of trust. Each exhale a subtle letting go of burden. Healing in the night is both emotional and spiritual. It is a recalibration, a subtle alignment that repairs what the day may have strained. Tension in thought patterns softens, sadness or loneliness feels lighter, and the heart learns again that it is not alone. Biblical narratives reflect this as well. Stories of people who endured sorrow, fear, or isolation, yet found restoration through God's unseen hand. The quiet moments of surrender in prayer or reflection become invitations for deeper repair. Spaces in which care can infiltrate even the most stubborn corners of the mind. The night also becomes a time for mental release, a gentle clearing of cluttered thoughts. As eyelids fall heavy, the brain cycles through the day's events, allowing memories and emotions to settle into a subtle order. In these cycles, divine care operates quietly, guiding the soul toward restoration. Verses can be integrated naturally, softly imagined, or whispered in thought, like, "Cast all your cares on him, because he cares for you." A gentle mantra that reinforces the unseen work unfolding with every heartbeat. Scripture often pairs rest with promise. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Carries a reassurance that transcends mere physical comfort. Emotional healing is not hurried. It is a patient, persistent presence that unfolds over time, layered gently with faith and trust. The mind, sensing that it is safe, relaxes into the process, allowing deep repair without forcing the heart or intellect to understand how. Even sorrow can find a tender rhythm here, its edges softened by the gentle cadence of divine care. The process of healing during sleep also touches the imagination, which has a profound way of allowing the heart to rest. As eyelids close and the external world recedes, internal landscapes emerge. Memories, hopes, fears, and prayers. In these quiet spaces, verses and gentle reflections can act as soft guides, leading the mind through imagery of protection, restoration, and divine touch. The act of imagining God's care, wings spread over the sleeper, light surrounding the heart, or a comforting hand resting on the chest, all become vessels for emotional restoration that flow naturally with the night's rhythm. Healing also interacts with memory and thought patterns. The subconscious mind reviews the day in fragments, reorganizing and integrating experiences. Here, the gentle echo of Scripture can anchor the soul, offering not correction or instruction, but comfort. Lines like, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted," or "He restores my soul," serve as quiet reminders that repair is occurring, often in ways too subtle to notice at first. The cumulative effect of these small, whispered reassurances is profound. The heart feels lighter, the mind more aligned, and the soul more capable of receiving peace. Even fatigue carries its own quiet invitation for healing. When the body becomes heavy, it signals readiness for release. Sleep allows muscles to relax, circulation to balance, and the nervous system to recover, paralleling the emotional release of burdens carried during waking hours. In these hours, spiritual healing operates alongside the physical, reinforcing a deep sense of security and nurturing that stretches beyond immediate perception. The mind learns to associate rest with repair, and the heart begins to trust the natural rhythm of recovery, both bodily and spiritual, in tandem with divine oversight. Repetition of Scripture and imagery strengthens this healing process. Verses revisited gently throughout the night create layers of reassurance, much like the soft layering of blankets or the gradual enfolding of comfort. He will refresh the weary and satisfy the faint. Becomes not only words, but an experience, felt subtly in breath and heartbeat. Each repetition does not demand attention, but weaves quietly into consciousness, building resilience, easing tension, and reinforcing the natural alignment between body, mind, and spirit during rest. The night's stillness itself becomes a participant in healing. Silence, darkness, and the slow rhythm of external life allow internal processes to unfold without interference. Emotions that might otherwise be overwhelmed by daytime noise find a space to release. Thoughts that may be tangled gain clarity, and the heart receives a gentle unfolding of care that is uninterrupted and patient. This creates a cycle in which the sleeper is both passive recipient and active participant, receiving repair while engaging minimally in prayer, reflection, or gentle attention to Scripture, all without exertion or strain. Healing also has a subtle temporal rhythm. The early night may focus on release, letting go of worries, tensions, and lingering stress. The middle hours may center on restoration, as the mind and soul integrate experiences and memories, softening pain or fatigue. The later night and pre-dawn hours can deepen into reflection and subtle spiritual growth, where trust, hope, and reassurance quietly solidify. Scripture woven into this rhythm acts like gentle markers, soft guideposts that align the mind with the ongoing, unseen work of divine care. The imagery of protection and repair is reinforced by repetition, light touch, and gentle awareness. Imagining God's presence as a comforting canopy or a soft, steadying hand brings a tangible sense of safety that allows emotional and spiritual healing to proceed uninterrupted. Lines like, "He restores my soul," or "He heals the brokenhearted," are repeated softly, creating a sense of rhythm and trust that supports the deepening calm. Each verse, each image, each breath layers over the heart and mind, creating a sanctuary in which the unseen work of care can flourish quietly, steadily, and profoundly. Even the smallest awareness of healing can anchor the sleeper. As attention drifts toward physical sensations, heaviness of limbs, warmth in the chest, slow inhalation, and exhalation. The mind links these subtle experiences with the larger rhythm of care and restoration. Scripture and imagery reinforce this awareness, creating a consistent thread that stretches across the night, unbroken, tender, and persistent. Emotional wounds soften, spiritual renewal begins, and a subtle sense of well-being emerges, all woven into the fabric of rest, rhythm, and the quiet persistence of divine healing. By the deep hours, the sleeper is enveloped in a continuous rhythm of care. The combination of scripture, gentle imagery, breath awareness, and the night's own stillness forms an intricate web of emotional and spiritual repair. Thoughts, emotions, and the heart itself are gently nurtured, not by visible action, but by subtle presence. The layers of reassurance, repeated verses, and quiet imagination cultivate an internal sanctuary where healing can unfold uninterrupted, providing a deep, tender, and restorative experience that aligns body, mind, and soul in harmony with the night and with divine care. As the night deepens and the world outside drifts into quiet, there comes a rare kind of stillness that settles not just over the body, but within the heart itself. It is a soft, unassuming peace, the kind that does not announce itself with grand gestures or loud proclamations. Instead, it arrives gently, like a warm breeze sliding through an open window, or the quiet ripple of water across a moonlit pond. The heart, which for hours may have carried unease, worry, or restless thoughts, begins to feel lighter, as if invisible hands are slowly lifting the tension away, letting each beat settle into a natural, unhurried rhythm. There is no instruction here, no lesson to digest, only the quiet reassurance that it is safe to rest, that everything does not need to be solved or hurried, that the weight of the day, and even the thoughts of tomorrow, can temporarily be set aside. In this stillness, emotional quietness becomes tangible. Each breath feels deliberate, not in the sense of effort, but as if the body itself knows the pace it needs to maintain to support the mind's gentle slowing. The heart no longer races in anticipation or fear. It pulses steadily, in sync with the slow rhythm of the night. Thoughts may arise, but they do so softly, like leaves floating to the ground in autumn, without urgency or demand. There is a sense of spaciousness that surrounds the soul, an invisible cushion that absorbs the sharp edges of earlier anxieties, and gradually, without conscious effort, the heart relaxes into contentment. This contentment is not earned or commanded. It is simply allowed, emerging naturally as the quiet of the night deepens and the mind begins to trust the unseen rhythm of care and presence. Biblical imagery often evokes this gentle settling of the soul. The Psalms, for instance, speak of resting in God's presence not as a task, but as a state of being, a quieted heart that finds ease without striving. Be still and know that I am God is more than a command. It is a whispered invitation to inhabit a space where the heart can finally unclench, where thoughts can slow, and where the soul can experience the simple joy of existing without pressure or expectation. In this space, the heart begins to recognize that peace is not a distant goal, but a companion that has been present all along, patiently waiting for acknowledgement in the soft hours of night. Reassurance in this context does not come as a lesson or an exhortation. It is a presence, subtle but undeniable, that assures the heart that it is held, that it is safe, that the restless energies of the mind can be released without danger or consequence. The night becomes a vessel for this reassurance, with each hour flowing gently into the next, creating a rhythm that is slow, deliberate, and unhurried. Even small elements, a faint breeze, the distant call of a night bird, or the soft rustle of leaves, can mirror this internal rhythm, reinforcing the quiet sense of safety and emotional ease. Contentment in the night is rooted in acceptance. The mind learns that it does not need to chase every thought, anticipate every challenge, or resolve every concern before rest. Emotional quietness grows from this recognition, as the heart practices letting go of struggle and allowing the present moment to be enough. Biblical verses naturally weave into this process, acting as soft anchors rather than directives. Lines like, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," or "He restores my soul," can be imagined, whispered inwardly, or simply sensed, not as instructions, but as gentle companions in the slow unfolding of peace. In this calm, even memories of earlier struggles lose their sharpness. Anger, frustration, or disappointment that might have seemed overwhelming during the day begin to soften. The heart experiences a subtle shift, a kind of emotional recalibration, where the importance of immediate concerns diminishes and a quiet perspective takes root. This is not a cognitive process requiring effort or analysis. It is the natural settling of the soul when it is allowed to rest, when it is given space to breathe, and when reassurance is present without conditions or expectations. The rhythm of the night itself supports this emotional quietness. As time flows slowly, uninterrupted, the heart aligns with the cadence of the hours. Each beat, each inhalation and exhalation moves with a softness that encourages deeper relaxation. Thoughts, if they arise, do so like gentle ripples on a still lake, easily acknowledged and then released, leaving behind a smoother surface. In this rhythm, contentment is not hurried or forced. It grows organically, nurtured by the quiet, the darkness, and the subtle constancy of presence that does not demand, but simply reassures. This slow rhythm is also reflected in the physical body. Muscles release tension without conscious effort. Shoulders relax, and the breath becomes long and unstrained. The body and heart are intertwined in this state, each reinforcing the other. Emotional quietness becomes more accessible because the body is no longer signaling urgency or readiness for action. The heart is allowed to slow, to synchronize with the night, and to experience a kind of gentle stillness that is both restorative and nurturing. Imagery can heighten this sense of ease without drawing attention to teaching or lesson. One can imagine being wrapped in soft, invisible layers of warmth and safety, like the tender folds of a blanket around the heart. Or picture a quiet, flowing stream under moonlight, moving without force, carrying away remnants of tension and worry. These images are subtle, not dramatic, and they reinforce the heart's natural inclination toward peace and contentment. Verses can flow alongside these images, soft and comforting, like quiet whispers that echo through the night, without demanding attention, yet deeply influencing the soul's sense of ease. Even the smallest acknowledgement of divine care can deepen this state. The heart, sensing that it is watched over, supported, and gently held, begins to settle more fully. Trust, even if only sensed faintly, contributes to the rhythm of contentment. Each inhale can bring a sense of reassurance. Each exhale a gentle release of lingering tension. Emotional quietness becomes self-reinforcing, The more the heart feels safe and held, the more fully it can release. The more fully it releases, the more easily contentment spreads through the soul. As the night continues, the rhythm of peace becomes almost second nature. The heart no longer reaches for resolution or certainty. It rests in presence, allowing the slow unfolding of calm to permeate thought, emotion, and even imagination. Biblical verses and gentle reflections flow naturally, not as instruction, but as companions, harmonizing with the subtle cadence of the heart and the night. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. May float softly in thought, not pressed or forced, but resonating gently with the awareness of calm already present. The beauty of this state is that it does not rely on external conditions. Darkness, silence, or solitude are not empty spaces. They are active participants in the creation of ease. Each quiet hour reinforces the heart's capacity to rest. Emotional weight diminishes, contentment rises subtly, and reassurance becomes internalized. The heart can finally experience a sense of wholeness, not because problems have vanished, but because the internal landscape has been allowed to slow, to soften, and to recognize that it is safe to be at ease. Even as thoughts of tomorrow or unfinished tasks drift in, they are met with a quiet acknowledgement rather than urgency. The heart no longer clings to worry, but allows it to float by, like clouds moving slowly across a night sky. In this way, emotional quietness and contentment are reinforced moment by moment, breath by breath. The rhythm of the heart and mind aligns with the night, the body's own slowing, and the gentle awareness of presence, creating a space where peace is not only felt, but embodied. By the deep hours, the heart has settled fully into a gentle, unhurried rhythm. Emotional quietness has woven itself into every breath, every heartbeat, every pulse of the night. Contentment rests lightly, like a soft mantle, over the mind and spirit. Reassurance flows continuously, without demand, without instruction, without expectation. The slow, deliberate rhythm of the night becomes a partner in sustaining this ease, and the heart, finally unburdened, experiences a quiet that is rich, deep, and enduring, a subtle sanctuary, woven into the very fabric of rest. The night stretches wide, folding softly around the edges of thought, and in that quiet space, words begin to float slowly, almost reluctantly, into the mind. They come softly, one after another, gentle echoes that neither demand attention nor insist on understanding. The rhythm of the night encourages a slow, drifting cadence where sentences linger just long enough to brush the surface of consciousness before dissolving into silence. The words themselves are few, chosen not for drama or complexity, but for their weightlessness, for the ease with which they can be held and then released. A verse here, a phrase there, repeated not for emphasis but for comfort, becomes a soft current, carrying the mind closer to rest. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you, murmurs quietly in thought, and it drifts like a feather across the surface of the heart. It does not demand focus, it does not call for understanding, it simply rests there, a gentle companion, a quiet presence that moves with the ebb and flow of breath. With each repetition, the heart begins to synchronize with the words, sensing their gentle insistence not as a lesson, but as a lullaby. The language is minimal, pared down to essentials, each syllable soft and unhurried, each thought meant to be a gentle whisper, easy to follow, easy to let go. Sleep hovers nearby, hovering like a quiet tide, and the mind moves between the clarity of awareness and the softness of dream. Words appear, float, fade, and repeat, not in a pattern that demands attention, but in a rhythm that mirrors the slowing pulse of the body. He will keep you in perfect peace, repeats gently, and then drifts away like a soft mist, returning in moments like a comforting echo. There is no urgency, no pressure, only the slow unfolding of quiet, where the heart, the mind, and the spirit begin to sink into the same gentle rhythm. The repetition of simple, comforting verses becomes almost hypnotic. Each return to the same phrases carries a familiarity that soothes the listener, especially as fatigue presses heavier with each breath. Words like rest, peace, safe, held, appear, float, and fade, always returning like gentle waves lapping softly at the shore of awareness. The listener, already half asleep, receives these words not as commands but as invisible blankets, wrapping around the mind and heart, reassuring, calming, and sustaining. Each repetition strengthens the sense of safety without drawing attention to itself, forming a quiet scaffold for the mind to drift upon. Minimal verses float alongside images of night and stillness, the moon casting a pale glow across a quiet room, shadows curling gently along walls. The soft rustle of leaves outside each image carries a gentle invitation to linger, to observe without thought, to allow the senses to relax. Verses weave naturally into these images. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, moves with the rhythm of the gentle night air. It does not ask for analysis or interpretation. It simply accompanies the scene, a tender brush on the canvas of consciousness, reinforcing the stillness that surrounds it. Even the breath itself participates in this rhythm. Inhale slowly, exhale softly. Each breath mirrors the minimal words that float and fade. Each verse, repeated quietly, aligns with the pulse of the chest, the soft rise and fall of the body, the tiny shifts of the mind that move closer to sleep. I will lie down and sleep in peace. Comes again, gently, then disappears, leaving behind a subtle imprint of calm. The heart learns the rhythm of release. The mind surrenders to the cadence of softness, and the soul begins to sense the quiet assurance of divine presence, even if only half awake, even if only in glimpses. The listener drifts, alternating between the grasp of waking thought and the soft pull of slumber. Words become more spare, their presence less formal, their repetition more soothing. Do not be afraid, whispers like a lullaby, returning softly in the spaces between thoughts. The rhythm slows even further, each phrase stretching, elongating, dissolving slowly, as if to give the mind a chance to float alongside it. The night deepens, and the edges of consciousness soften, allowing a sense of peace to spread subtly, invisibly, across body and spirit alike. Gentle repetition also reinforces security and safety. The half-asleep mind may only catch fragments of verses, and yet these fragments are enough. The Lord watches over you, surfaces again and again, each time dissolving into a soft haze, planting reassurance without forcing attention. Sleep itself becomes the partner, carrying fragments of verses, soft images, and whispered reassurances into the depths where rest unfolds fully. The words need not be complete or precise. Their essence alone suffices to guide the mind into a tender state of ease. Imagery continues to blend with minimal words. Soft blankets, a quiet hearth, the dim glow of a candle. Each visual integrates with the repetition of scripture, forming a gentle environment for the half-conscious mind. He gives strength to the weary, drifts quietly, fading, returning, a steady pulse beneath the gentle darkness. The rhythm is slow, measured, and unhurried. Nothing is demanded. Nothing must be understood. The mind simply floats, carried by a combination of minimal language, repeated verses, and the slow, soft rhythm of the night itself. Even thoughts of the day, though they may drift in, are softened by the words and their repetition. Burdens, regrets, or worries arrive lightly, only to dissolve again in the slow cadence. The listener, half asleep, may not consciously process every word, yet the cumulative effect is undeniable. The repeated verses act like gentle anchors, holding the mind in a tender space where the heart can finally release, where tension can soften, and where the slow rhythm of the night reinforces the calm presence surrounding the soul. The repetition also mirrors natural patterns of sleep. The mind cycles through awareness and surrender, drifting closer and further from full consciousness. Verses, simple and repeated, act as guides through these cycles, offering reassurance without demanding focus. "I will keep you in perfect peace" may surface multiple times, each appearance like a quiet nod from the night itself, affirming safety, calm, and the gentle rhythm that leads toward deeper rest. The words are minimal, the repetitions steady, and the tone is soft, perfectly suited to the half-asleep state. The listener is not required to concentrate, only to feel the cadence, to allow the verses to float in and out, to anchor gently in the subconscious. Each phrase, each whispered image, each soft repetition works together, forming a tapestry of calm that stretches from the mind to the heart, from the conscious edges into the deeper layers of awareness. By the middle of the night, the mind moves seamlessly between drift and gentle awareness. The simplicity of language, the calm repetition of comforting verses, and the slow rhythm of presence create a gentle cocoon. Thoughts no longer clamor for attention. Emotions settle quietly, softening their edges. Each repetition of scripture, each soft image, each gentle breath aligns with the night's rhythm, guiding the listener steadily toward deeper sleep. Even if attention drifts entirely, the rhythm and reassurance continue, invisible but tangible, embedding a sense of safety and peace that the heart can carry forward. The experience of drifting between words and sleep is cumulative. Minimal words, repeated verses, and slow cadence combine to nurture both mind and soul. The Lord is near to all who call on Him, surfaces quietly, fades, returns, and floats again, carrying reassurance without effort. The half-asleep listener receives it without thinking, feels it without conscious effort, and drifts more fully into the tender embrace of the night. Breath, heartbeat, verse, and image align in quiet harmony, creating an invisible sanctuary, a space where mind and heart can rest deeply, peacefully, and gently. Even in the soft hours before full slumber, the rhythm remains constant. Words may come more sparsely, repeating almost imperceptibly. "Rest in the Lord," murmurs like a faint wind. Repetition continues, not as insistence, but as gentle guidance. Each echo reinforces calm. Each repetition eases tension. Each fragment of verse becomes a lullaby, weaving seamlessly with the slow, unhurried rhythm of the night. The listener, half asleep, drifts steadily, each breath syncing with the cadence of reassurance, each heartbeat aligning with the slow movement toward deep rest. By the final stretches of wakefulness before full sleep, the simplicity of words, the gentle repetition, and the soft verses have established a tender rhythm. The mind no longer struggles. The heart no longer resists. Peace settles almost imperceptibly, carried on the back of repeated whispers and gentle phrases. Each minimal word, each repeated line, works quietly, invisibly, to prepare the soul for the full surrender of sleep, where reassurance, rhythm, and quiet presence converge to create a sanctuary within the night itself. The night stretches endlessly, soft and unhurried, a gentle veil that drapes over the world outside and the heart within. In this quiet, there is no rush, no need to push against the hours or measure the moments. Instead, there is a profound sense of being cradled, of being held in a way that does not require effort or understanding. It is as if unseen hands, steadfast, tender, unwavering, gently keep the heart from tipping, the mind from spinning, and the body from resisting rest. The weight of worry, the residue of thought, the residue of care from the day, all seem lighter here, suspended in a calm rhythm that does not demand, but simply supports. In the darkness, the mind drifts easily, moving through moments of half-conscious awareness. Thoughts appear, soft and fleeting, like ripples on a quiet lake, and they fade as gently as they came. The sense of being held is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, like the slow pulse of the night itself, or the their brush of a breeze across a window. Every inhale brings reassurance. Every exhale carries release, and the heart begins to sense a presence that does not judge, does not demand, and does not rush. It is simply there, a steady companion, accompanying each passing hour, each gentle turn of the clock. Biblical imagery naturally emerges here, though not as instruction or doctrine, but as whispers that mingle with the soft darkness. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted, drifts lightly in thought, felt more than analyzed, and immediately there is a sense of being enfolded in care. Each verse, every familiar line, becomes like a soft anchor, resting lightly against the soul. They repeat themselves in quiet patterns, not insistently, but in a rhythm that matches the slow, steady unfolding of the night. The heart receives them like small, invisible hands pressing softly against tension, smoothing, cradling, holding. In this state, the body itself begins to mirror the sense of being held. Muscles loosen without effort. Shoulders drop. The chest rises and falls in a slow, even rhythm. The heartbeat slows to match the gentle cadence of reassurance that fills the quiet hours. Even the mind, often busy with questions, regrets, or anticipations, softens. It begins to trust the quiet, to accept that not all problems need attention at this hour, that not every thought needs a response. In this space, the simple act of existing becomes enough. To breathe, to feel, to rest quietly. These are the things that matter now, and they are fully allowed. The night itself seems to participate in the holding. Shadows stretch long across walls, dim shapes of furniture and trees softened by moonlight, and the subtle hum of life beyond windows becomes a gentle background to inner stillness. Verses come and go like whispers carried on this quiet wind. He will give his angels charge over you to guard you in all your ways. Floats softly, not commanding attention, not demanding understanding, just resting lightly on consciousness. The effect is not instructive but comforting. Each soft repetition, each quiet word, mirrors the steady support felt deep within. Even as thoughts of the day or glimpses of tomorrow drift in, they are met with the same quiet presence. There is no judgment, no urgency, only a gentle acknowledgement that they may be there and then released. Each fragment of awareness passes like a gentle current through the heart, always returning to the underlying rhythm of being held, of being carried, of being quietly supported until sleep takes over. The mind does not need to solve or organize. It only needs to allow, to float in the slow embrace of unseen care. The heart, carried in this gentle presence, begins to soften fully. Emotional tension relaxes, as if each pulse of awareness is met with invisible hands guiding it into a calm space. The smallest anxieties lose their sharpness, fading gradually into the background. Even the weight of memory, of regrets or unresolved thoughts, seems lighter, resting gently against the unspoken assurance that the night and the presence that accompanies it will not let them tip the balance. Each breath feels like a quiet affirmation. You are safe. You are held. You are allowed to rest. Imagery blends seamlessly with gentle scripture here, neither forcing thought nor drawing attention. Soft visions of protective arms, of calm waters reflecting the moon, of gentle winds moving silently through branches, interlace with whispers of verses like, "He will never leave you, nor forsake you." These words do not carry the pressure of obligation or the weight of learning. They are companions, existing alongside the body, the mind, and the slowly quieting heart. They are a soft rhythm that carries the listener toward rest without announcement or crescendo. The rhythm of being held is continuous, quiet, and consistent. There is no dramatic moment, no turning point, only the gentle, ongoing experience of presence. The listener, aware in fragments, drifts between wakefulness and sleep, and each return to consciousness finds the same quiet reassurance, the same gentle holding. Breath and heartbeat, thought and feeling, all synchronize with the night's rhythm, softening edges, slowing pace, and allowing the mind to descend deeper into calm. The gentle repetition of scripture, images of protection, and the slow, unhurried rhythm of awareness act together like a soft current beneath the surface. Thoughts rise and fade, worries appear and dissolve, and the heart begins to recognize the natural ebb of tension and release. Even the faintest awareness of a verse, repeated softly, carries with it a quiet sense of safety. He upholds you with his righteous right hand, passes lightly through thought, and the heart feels it not as a command, but as a hand resting on the shoulder, steady, warm, and present. Even as the night deepens further, there is no push toward completion or closure. The sense of being held continues, seamless and gentle, carrying the listener across hours where consciousness shifts and drifts. The physical body, fully responsive to the quiet, sinks into bed or resting place with ease, supported by invisible, unceasing care. Emotional tension, if it stirs, is softened again by the rhythm of gentle verses and subtle images, returning the heart to the calm, the slow unfolding, the quiet presence that permeates the darkness. Sleep itself begins to edge closer, not in abrupt motion, but in a slow, subtle descent. Words and images grow fainter. Breathing and heartbeat guide the rhythm, and the gentle presence remains like an ever-softened blanket. The listener may not notice the exact moment, but a quiet surrender occurs, where the mind lets go of effort, and the body releases into the unseen hands that hold it. The night stretches further, and the experience of being carried, quietly supported, continues as consciousness drifts into the tender space of rest. Even the few fragments of awareness that remain feel different now. They are lighter, softer, and more rhythmic. Each pulse of thought, each minor stir of emotion is met by a calm that does not insist, a presence that does not demand, and a rhythm that continues uninterrupted. The night is long, the hours quiet, and the listener floats in the gentle assurance of care, slowly, steadily, without urgency, without pressure, and without expectation. The final hours before dawn feel seamless, as if the world has been carried across the night in invisible arms. Breath, heartbeat, and the slow repetition of whispered verses align with the gradual dimming of consciousness. The sense of being held continues quietly, unobtrusively, and the rhythm of night remains steady and reliable. It is neither dramatic nor pronounced, simply continuous, a soft, unbroken current of support, presence, and gentle holding. As the night edges toward the first light, the heart, body, and mind have been carried together, aligned with the quiet, slow rhythm of rest. Each subtle verse, each whispered image, each gentle repetition has contributed to this ongoing experience of being held, of being supported, of being accompanied through the hours where sleep deepens and consciousness softens. There is no strong ending, no conclusion, no call to wakefulness, only the quiet fading into rest and the tender assurance that the listener has been carried, gently, all through the night.